morning, everyone. I'd like to call this Tampa City Council workshop meeting to order. At this time, I yield to Councilmember Clendenin.
Just a moment of silence.
We could please stand for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you very much. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, if we could have roll call, please.
Carlson.
Here.
Hurtek.
Here.
Clendenin.
Here.
Henderson.
Present.
Vieira. Miranda.
Here.
Maniscalco.
Here.
We have physical quorum.
All right, just a couple of items. Councilmember Vieira will be here in a few minutes. We have a few memos to go over. Item number 2, there is a request to continue this item to the January 30th, 2025 workshop. May I have a motion to that effect? Yes, sir.
And I'll second that since it was mine. I wanted to just let them know, I had a meeting with all the department heads. There's really nothing, there's a lot of things moving right now, so there's nothing concrete to report. By January of next year, we'll have something really concrete and specific to report. Positive news is it's all moving in the right direction. Everybody's flowing in the right direction. I feel really good about it.
Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. Do we have all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that's to continue that. We also received a memo for item number 5 to be continued to June 27th. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Clendenin. All in favor? Aye. Next, motion for item number 7 to be continued to August 29th. We have a motion from
Okay.
Councilmember Clendenin, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And finally, item number 8, motion to continue this item to May 23rd. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Clendenin. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that settles the agenda. Mr. Vasky?
Yes, good morning, Justin Vasky, Assistant City Attorney. Members of the public are allowed a reasonable opportunity at the beginning of today's City Council meeting to address any item on the agenda before City Council takes official action on an item. A 3-minute time limit applies to all speakers providing public comment. Speakers and members of the public are also reminded that they are to refrain from disruptive behavior, including making vulgar or threatening remarks or making or causing disruptive noises or sounds or displaying signs or graphics. Speakers are also reminded to refrain from making personal attacks against any city official, staff member, or members of the public. The chair will rule out of order any person who speaks without being recognized or attempts to address the City Council from outside the speaker area at the podium. Persons failing to comply with the council rules may also be ruled out of order and, at the discretion of the chair, may be removed from the chambers for the remainder of that day or today's meeting. Now, for today's meeting, public comment is both at the beginning of this meeting for those who want to speak before the items are heard and also after each workshop item. However, members of the public can only choose before or after, not both. Finally, City Council members should refrain from engaging a speaker under public comment, and the public should be aware that the City Council does not take questions or have a dialogue during general public comment. This is your opportunity to express your position. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, we'll go to general public comment. If you're here to speak, please come on up and state your name. You'll have 3 minutes. Good morning, sir. Please state your name.
Good morning. My name is Daryl Heitch. Can I use the teleprompter thing, the jiggle?
Yeah, we'll turn on the overhead. It'll activate in just a second.
It's waking up.
Kind of like
Pour
us.
some coffee on it.
He's coming out to check it.
What are you doing? You've been messing up today.
There we go.
Yes, sir, we can see it. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning. My name is Daryl Height. A couple days ago, myself and the president of the Hillsborough County Black Chamber of Commerce, we had the opportunity to go hear the president speak. And when we heard the president speak, I couldn't go past seeing those two words there that said reproductive freedom. And I asked her, I said, what does that mean to you, reproductive freedom? And then she answered from a micro perspective because we know that the theme was about abortion. But then I asked her, I said, take a look at this thing from a macro perspective. What I did then was I said, let's break this word down. Let's break this word down. The word re means to do something over again, and productive means to produce something. And I said, let's look at this from the root word of what's happening here. And the root word of what I seen happening there was produce freedom. And I asked her the question, I said, how do you produce freedom? What are the things that you can do, we can do to produce freedom? And then it dawned on me. Resolution number 568. Resolution number 568 is how we have an opportunity to produce freedom. Now, we also, and I applaud the council for bringing this forward and continuously bringing the conversation forward. I applaud the media for bringing it forward. But what I think we may be doing is putting a bandage over a shotgun wound. Because as I looked at the news media and I looked at all the different organizations that are being selected to potentially participate in this reconciliation committee, I couldn't help but to ask, what was the vetting process to conclude that these are the organizations that need to be participating in this reconciliation committee? What was the thought pattern? I think that if we're going to truly produce freedom, we have to be intentional about what we're doing. We have to be strategic about it. We cannot just say, you know what, let's just arbitrarily throw out some organizations that have been known throughout the community, some individuals that got a name, reputation in the community. That's not producing freedom. What that's going to ultimately put us in the situation of doing is reproducing something. The whole theme the other day, listening to the president and all the leaders that went before him, all they kept talking about was how to redo something that the previous administration done because they didn't get it right up front. So we have an opportunity. I'm asking you to please consider, as you produce freedom based upon resolution number 568, that you're mindful, that you're intentional, that you are moving in a strategic fashion so that we don't have to go back and try to correct this thing at a future date. You cannot move forward without having a strategic plan, even in deciding who you put on this committee. Don't just put a bandage over a shotgun wound as we produce freedom for resolution number 568.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, next speaker. Pastor Williams. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. My name is Pastor Williams, located 1112 East Scott Street, Paradise Missionary Baptist Church. You know, I want to read some script, just one paragraph. If God said this here, if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and forgive their sin and heal the land. You know, God want to do a whole lot for us, but we won't let him. We got to understand that we're people, we're spiritual, and we thank God for this blessing, to be able to come down and speak with you all again. Knowing that the president was here this past Tuesday, what it was, Monday, was here, and when the president or any governor, anybody come to Tampa, send them out there in East Tampa and let them know what y'all are doing for us. And they all will see NOTHING, nothing. But we got to try to do what we can for ourselves. We are taxpayers, we pay our tax, we pay the water bill, the light bill, but y'all still trying to harm us. and why I don't know. But we got to understand that we are fearful of God, what He gonna do to us. So we gonna keep on praying and trusting in the Lord. And I thank God for each and every one of you all present here today. We got to understand that we are people, and we're not just black people or just white people. We are people, period. We are God-fearing people, people who love God and trust God for everything. We realize that we're not being treated like citizens of the United States of America. We treated like outcasts. But we got to understand, we got to get our head together, get our focus together, get our mind together, and do what God wants us to do, whether y'all like it or not. You know, we got that, what I call septic tank, y'all call them retainer land. Well, y'all only got them on Belma Heights and Jackson Heights. You ain't got them nowhere else. Retaining land, if you're going to put retaining land, then put them downtown. Put them everywhere. Don't just put them in the Belma Heights and Jackson Heights. That's our land, and we want God to continue to bless us. Y'all have mercy on us all.
Thank you very much, sir. Next speaker? Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Hakeem Caldwell. I think you hear me better now. But I was just wanting to get up and say something about what the brother had said right there about the 368. That's it. 568. What I say, what people should have to do when they start an organization, basically, you have to get out in the community. Don't nobody know nothing. That's why the same thing keep happening. People saying that they're gonna do this, and people say they're gonna do this, but you're not going to the solution and doing what you're supposed to do. A lot of people do it for themselves, but if you're doing it for the community, and like what a lot of people say, if you have passion for something, then you're gonna treat it a certain way. If you're just doing it just for the goods that it brings you and stuff like that, it's never gonna work because you're so busy taking your eye off what God wants you to do. If you're a godly person, basically focusing on what God wants you to do and doing what you want, what the worldly flesh want. Excuse me, when we talk like that. But that's all I have to say about the brother right there. What we need to do, if somebody's gonna start an organization and say they're gonna help the community, then you need to get out there in the community. I came up here about like 4 times now, but I still don't know really about a lot of organizations that says they are doing these type of things. So what I say they should do is probably go out in the community and let more people know about it, because you never know who's out there. You might find me just have visions, and then you can put it together. So you got different parts of everything. So that's what I suggest for all the organizations to start doing, is doing what they're supposed to do and not what they want to do. For sure. I mean, that's it.
Thank you very much, sir. Next speaker? Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Uhuru Mentesnot, Tampa, Florida. Want to say Uhuru means freedom in Swahili. We as African people should always be thinking about our freedom. 600 years we hadn't been free. And the system have a way of evolving slavery. Slavery is worse today for African people than it has ever been in the history of the world. They took a whole group of people, proud people, de-educated us, and say we're the first to do this and the first to do that. Life don't work that way. Most people you meet can't think. Most people you meet aren't independent thinkers. They really even aren't collective thinkers. Most people you meet are so conditioned and preconditioned and indoctrinated that they think in reverse. You meet some people who are opposed to pedophilia. They say it's wrong for a 50-year-old man to sleep with a 6 or 7-year-old child. They say that's wrong. They're legally, philosophically, ideologically, they're opposed to it. They 100% opposed to it. And the person might tell them, hey, ain't nothing wrong with it. Now, do you see anything wrong with that picture? A 50-year-old man sleeping with a 3, 4, 5-year-old child. People would be horrified to hear and know that. Put him away, lock him up. But you got 700 plus over 50-year-old men and women voting to send $100 billion to occupy Palestine to drop bombs on hospitals. Something's wrong with that picture. Something wrong with a picture that say, lock them up, say no to drugs, and all these other things that target African people. Specifically target African people, and other people doing what they want to do. All that have to stop. We have to correct our way of thinking and bring everything into the proper perspective. Another thing I want to say is to Judge Christopher Sabella, that child support, hearing Officer Arabella Campbell and Charles Denton, you need to get rid of them. That whole child support situation got to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Good morning, sir. Come on up. Please state your name.
Hello, good morning. My name is Todd Randolph. I've been a resident of the city of Tampa for 15 years. I'm here to speak about workshop item number 6, about the rules regarding artificial turf and the environmental impact. I find the use of fake plastic lawns and the increasing installation of fake plastic lawns being very concerning. It's well known that these artificial turf, fake residential lawns break down, contribute to the microplastics issue that we are facing today. I've heard leading scientific leaders talk about how the microplastics issue is an existential threat on the level of carbon emissions, climate change. And the installation of plastic lawns really exasperates both. The oil and gas industry releases carbon emissions to manufacture plastic, any kind of plastic. To make that stuff is contributing to our climate change problem, and to make particularly this product, which can only be breaking down into its immediate environment, which is unregulated and uncontrolled, into our public spaces, contributing to our microplastics, is very concerning. This is it's been known for years to cause this problem. Many other municipalities in America have made it illegal to install this. That's becoming of increasing frequency, and I believe Tampa should consider eliminating the use of artificial turf, particularly in public spaces where it's known to have a health impact. I do not believe it is right to expose the public to a product that is known to have this health impact. And then also, as far as residential installation, that should be more controlled. It's shocking the amount of fake plastic lawns that are being installed. They're known to be very hot, increasing the surface temperatures and contributing to the heat that we're facing, and they're known to contribute all of these microplastics. Last week we had the EPA say you got to remove these forever chemicals, these PFAS. These lawns contribute to that problem. That's going to be a growing problem that we're going to pay a lot of money to clean up, and we want to fix that before it gets worse. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. Just my apologies. It was a terrible crash and was in traffic for almost an hour and a half, so just FYI, thank you.
All right. Yes, ma'am. Good morning. Please say your name.
Yes, good morning, Connie Burton. First, I would like to thank the entire council for moving forward in the approving and establishing a racial reconciliation committee. My very, very much concern is that I wish it would have been within a workshop setting, so we would have had an opportunity to thrash out a whole bunch of ideas, hear from all of the council members as to what's their preference. I know Councilwoman Henderson has been trying to push that because it is a complicated issue. It is something that's going to be more than taking a couple of weeks to come to some type of final report. We're talking about ongoing issues that has dealt with African people in this city, that has put us in a bad situation as we see this city progressing and moving forward. If you look at your workshop issue number 1, it's very clear. There are organizations, and not this particular organization, but there's a lot of money that is thrown towards social justice. There are organizations that has targeted sororities, fraternities, nonprofits. They all use the data to talk about how they're dealing with the issues of poverty and injustice. But if we had been concentrating, if there had been strategic reports, if there's somebody to come back and do an evaluation, we wouldn't be here. We are here because money is most times thrown at the problem, and people feel good at the end of the day. The Resolution 568 committee has to be more thoughtful in saying, how do we start the healing? The healing has not occurred because we have not dealt with it in ways in which we say in writing we understand that we have not done things right. But each week when you address this agenda and you're moving thousands and thousands of dollars, and we have economic deficits inside of our community, when we have issues of mass incarceration still going on in our community, it's not going to be by those organizations that can truly address these issues when they're going to the same pool and getting dollars. We plan on having a committee that wants to do strategic healing. And that means that even some of the people that's been already selected to be on this committee has to be held accountable to this community for not doing the right thing. So again, thank you, and we look forward to moving forward.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Good morning.
Bob Whitmore, Executive Director of City Tree. Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
I'll begin by saying it is an absolute privilege to burn a vacation day to be with you for today's upcoming tree workshop. The question, I suppose, is why someone would do it. I won't lie. Obviously, I love trees. I think they are some of the most majestic, sentient creations on the planet, particularly our grand oaks. I suspect even the most hardened, profit-driven builder marvels at their grandeur before cutting them down. And the benefit mature trees have in this community goes without saying, especially since I only have 3 minutes, and you've heard it all before. But I believe the real reason I took time off to be here with you is because I love Tampa. I think it is an amazing city trying hard, thanks in part to all of you, to do the right things. And I wanted to be here as a show of support for one of those right things. A workshop focused on halting and hopefully reversing the not-so-slow demise of a canopy that very much defines this city and contributes so much to our quality of life. It's truly remarkable, perhaps even miraculous, that the canopy we fight so hard to protect, the nationally acclaimed urban forest that shields us from the fast-approaching, seemingly apocalyptic summers, wasn't even supposed to be here. It evolved over the last century from scrub, born from giant oaks now long gone. A gift from God and Joe Chalura. The result of tree codes and dedicated public servants at the Department of Natural Resources and a litany of private citizens and grassroots efforts, and you. The result is a protective canopy at just the right time. And while cities all across this planet and countries are scrambling to revive canopies in the single digits, Tampa is in the enviable position to regain and retain its standing as the most tree-covered city in the world. At a time when trees are trending, the city has the opportunity to position itself as literally the greenest city on earth. An achievement that can and will draw progressive residents to our neighborhoods, progressive businesses to our storefronts, business parks and office towers, but most importantly, ensure Tampa becomes a bastion of shade and carbon removal that not only benefits our citizens, but makes us the envy of an ever-warming world. In closing, I just want to say I am so glad I don't need to be here as much as I used to be. And that is because I trust you. I believe in each and every one of you. And I am proud of you, of us, for seating what has to be one of the most diverse city councils in the nation. Thank you for your service, and thank you for protecting the trees and, in doing, the city of Tampa.
Thank you very much, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. My name is Shagret Dawson. In as much as I appreciate people's service, I do all this. One for each one of you all. I'm sure you've all been served this. I did get your email reflecting that you had intended to address the matter I brought up in front of the city council a couple of weeks ago. And, you know, the gentleman said, I appreciate your service, and I know my man right here understands it also. For those of us who took that oath, and we were willing to pay for that oath with our lives, it's amazing how we hear, like, I appreciate your service, and I always say it was my honor because it was when I did it, and I joined when I was 17 years old, some almost 40 years ago. But what I wanted to say is, I get tired of the lip service. So now you all have been served with this writ of mandamus, which is only directing you to do what you should have done back in 2017. And it bothers me that I have to come here and go through this, because somebody said, you know, it sounds like we're begging you for something, and I don't beg for anything. I demand it the same way I expected people to demand me to fulfill the oath that I took. And you all took the same oath pursuant to Chapter 876 of the Florida statute, subsection 5, in fact, when you all signed up to do these jobs or fulfill these responsibilities. But like the gentleman says, how they cut down the trees, it's amazing that when we demand what's ours, even pursuant to Article 1, Section 1 of the Florida Constitution, because all political power is inherent in the people, and you all know that. So I know we can't talk about a whole lot because I'm suing you again, but I just wanted to make sure that the people of Tampa realize that the only way you can get anything to happen is you have to be willing to move towards your goal. I want those 7,000 emails, and we're going to go down here. We'll probably end up at the second DCA again to address it, because I don't trust anybody in Tampa. And as to Miss Arabella Campbell and Charles Denton, who actually quit the case because he didn't want to just do the job that he took pursuant to 876 of the Florida statutes as well. And Miss Arabella Campbell just came up with some concept that we didn't even discuss in the hearing. And for Mr. Sabella or Judge Sabella, I expect you to do your job and remove her immediately, if not sooner. And I'm not the only one who suffered these atrocities at the hands of the Department of Revenue and judges and other officials of the 13th Judicial Circuit and the 2nd DCA. I'm just willing to come in here and stand for it. So that being said, you all enjoy the rest of your day, and shout out to the University of Thomas Jefferson High School.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Valerie Bullock from Ponce Leon and Collegeia. I want to come and talk about Resolution 568. I seen on the paper that you all have certain organizations that you want to be a part of it. We should not have organizations that have made a profit off our pain. For one, Hillsborough County got the highest recidivism rate in the nation. So that tells me that planning for when people get out of prison, that's not working. We need some programs that deter or that stop people from entering into prison. Abe Brown Ministry, Abe Brown was a good man. He had an excellent legacy. Whoever is running it now, they are making a profit off of our pain. They have contracts with the transitional houses, and those are the people who are allowed in their program. The people who were born and raised in that same neighborhood where A. Brown Ministry sit, we can't partake in those programs. I went down there for myself and talked to Mr. Blunt. No, we cannot. He said he get government funding, and the government tell him how to spend the money. So we can't use the same organizations and expect a different result. We can look at their fruit and see what they have done, and so far it haven't made a difference. We need to think radical and think outside the box when it comes to appointing organizations to 568. And we have to be radical because when it comes to jobs, economic stability, and financial and housing, black people are so far behind, we don't have time to pussyfoot around with it. We have to have targeted plans with goals that we can measure. And the organizations who you all are suggesting, they shouldn't be on 568 resolution. I see you got a workshop today with those organizations. What if the organizations you on the workshop, the funds that you give them, tied into 568, and that would be a good start for changing the economic hardships that black people face, and it should also be something that can be measured. We don't need another workshop, we don't need another study, we don't need another seminar. We need programs and people that got professional expertise put onto 568 resolution board so that we can see a difference and we'll make a difference in our environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Please state your name.
Hey, good morning. Stephanie Pointer. You know, it's funny because I said this before 568 kind of started to become a committee, that it needs somebody to carry the football. And when the mayor announced publicly that she doesn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole, I'm sorry, but that's completely inappropriate. It's wrong. Why is it that within her city, she's the mayor, she's the leadership, she said, I don't want to touch this? It's wrong. And she's the one who controls city staff, and y'all did a really nice job of putting together a different way to make things happen. But you guys aren't supposed to be the bosses. It's her job to be the boss of all the people who work for staff for the city. And this is wrong that it's being ignored by the mayor. And here's the thing, like I said before, the budget committee kind of floundered about how we were going to move forward. Yesterday, I find out that the Natural Resources Committee that was supposed to be put in place 11 years ago never happened. That you guys don't control. That's on the mayor. So all these folks who have shown up here, and I said this before, we started making motions and resolutions, that you can't ignore the folks who are coming in here. They've worked their butts off on it. And to not have them being members of these boards is absolutely ludicrous. You guys have to take this into consideration. And somebody over there in the next building over there needs to be embarrassed that she doesn't support something as important to the citizens of this city as this is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else in the public that's wishing to speak? If not, I'm going to go to the Register of Public Speakers. All right, we have Lorraine Perino, who's here for 3 and 4. Carol Ann Bennett, who's here for 3 and 4, and they will speak after 3 and 4. We also have Rashima McCoy Green, if she's on. No? All right, that concludes public comment in the general sense. We're going to kick off the workshop with item number 1 regarding the EDC. And who is here to start that? That was a motion initiated by Councilmember Hurtak. I see Javier is here. Good morning, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, and I want to.
Good morning, Council.
Good morning. I want to thank you for your written report. I appreciate it. It does talk about who does or what the EDC is doing, how we're getting groups to work together, but it doesn't really discuss raising the median wage, and that's really the big issue. And it's hard, I get that, but where do we go? How do we keep moving that forward? Because as you heard from public comment today, that's one of the things that the citizens are asking us to do, is to provide jobs that have better median wages. And I hear about all these companies we're bringing to town and bringing talent. We don't need to bring talent here. We need to use the talent we have and pay them well. So our area median income has risen drastically, but it's leaving the people who live here behind. So what do we do? How do we move the people who've already been here forward? And it's not something we're going to be able to solve today. I truly understand that. But we've got to get that conversation rolling and seeing what we can do. So I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hurtak. And so again, Javier Marin, Director of Economic Opportunity.
For the record, Brenda McKenzie, Director of Workforce Partnerships for the city.
And so we can go over the whole memo if you prefer, or we can speak specifically on items 2 and 3 that directly address the issue of the average wage. And then we will, I guess, develop opportunities for continued dialogue in that sense. Would that work?
Yeah, great.
Awesome, thank you.
Good morning, Council. Happy to share with you today. In terms of the minimum wage and increasing opportunities for people from an economic standpoint and economic mobility, there has been a fair amount of legwork that's already been done. The Mayor's Workforce Council started a couple of years ago working on a collaborative action plan, 1, to assess the resources that are already out there, 2, to look for high potential wage opportunities, and 3, to look for upskilling opportunities to reach traditional and non-traditional for persons who are looking to increase their economic mobility. In terms of minimum wage specifically, as you know, the city does not control the minimum wage. That's currently set at about $12 an hour. We know that's not enough for people to have a living wage. If we look at living wage, there's a number of calculators that are available. There's one at MIT, there's different ones you can use. That tends to be around $22 an hour. So we know if we focus on the minimum wage, that's not going to get us to the living wage, but how do we upskill and bring opportunities for folks so that they can move along the continuum? And there's a number of key industries that Tampa has, working with EDC and others, that are really moving forward. So how do we get those companies to train their employees, to put them in pathways so that they can move along, whether it's healthcare, how do you move from a CNA to be an RN, whether it's in technology, how do you move from an entry level on up, looking for those opportunities and working for the trainers to do that. We had to coalesce 55 different organizations in our ecosystem to put together the initial game plan of how we leverage that. That was concluded or published in September of last year, and we're now actively working on the implementation. We do look at a number of non-traditional populations, returning citizens, those who are justice involved, because we want to make sure no matter what your circumstances may be, you have access to the economic opportunity that's really burgeoning here in Tampa. I'm happy to say that we were awarded last week a technical assistance grant for high potential innovative opportunities for returning citizens. We'll be partnering with a number of organizations in order to find that. It is a year-long opportunity. We will be able to benchmark with high potential opportunities throughout the country and beyond so that we can customize solutions that make sense for Tampa and bring them home. So we're actively working. We're all ears in terms of that collaboration because we know we're better together, and we certainly want to do that.
Thank you. How much was the grant for?
It is technical assistance, so they pay for the technical expertise, they pay for travel so that we can coalesce with the cohort, but there's not a monetary amount. Now, typically with these things, it's a 2-step process. So first you do that technical assistance planning part, and then you apply for the financial assistance. We have partnered with others, including the Community Foundation of Tampa Bay. So people know that we are actively looking for opportunities. We're actively looking to see how do we get people upskilled and get that training, not only so they can get that entry-level job. It's not about a job. It's really about building that career that's going to sustain themselves and their families for a lifetime.
And I have one more question about that. And how are we going to, what are our measurable goals here? How are we tracking this? How are we, and how can the community find out about these opportunities?
So there is a website, tpaworks.com. That is active now, and folks can go there. The plan that I referenced is located on that document, so they can see the action steps. They can see the organizations that were involved. They can see how we're moving along the continuum as we move forward. But we don't stop with those groups. We're constantly talking to others now that the plan is out there and we're in implementation mode. Because again, There's a lot to do, and we know the city by ourselves, we can't do it by ourselves. We have to actively engage partners in order to move forward.
And how are you reaching out to the communities? Who's doing that outreach?
So we have about 25 members of the Workforce Council themselves. They have outreach to about 80 members of a broader group that they are working with, and we continue to connect and talk to other people along the way.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have questions?
Anybody else have questions or comments? Yes, sir. Councilmember Vier.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, and thank you guys all for your hard work and whatnot. I wanted to talk about one of the things we're going to be looking at in the committee that's been spoken about here today is returning citizens. And I know that we've worked together on some programs, and y'all have done really, really great work. I mean, I do think it's good to give the city a real pat on the back for this issue, because a couple of years ago there wasn't much happening, and now there's a lot happening, and we can use that as a foundation on just a really, really big issue. I think the statistic is that every year 750,000 Americans leave incarceration, the prison system, and within 3 years, 2/3 of them will be back in contact with the criminal justice system, and that's a real failure of society. So, you know, we're doing things. I know. Could you talk about the grant that we were able to secure, I think it was $100,000 from the city of Tampa. I believe it was $300,000. It wasn't a grant; it was a budget allocation we worked together on for return to work. For the secular arm of Abraham Ministries. If you want to talk about that, we worked with Commissioner Myers.
Absolutely. Definitely with your guidance, we've been on the cutting edge on this issue. We were able to partner with Career Source Tampa Bay. They worked with Abraham Ministries in designing a program. That program is pretty well subscribed. So we have $100,000 to contribute to that. The agreement itself has been negotiated, and that will be coming back to you for final approval. They've been looking to connect people to that program. What is nice, if I could say, about the NLC opportunity that we were recently awarded is it enables us to take it to the next level. So now somebody has a job, but how do we actively help to upskill them so that they can move up in that organization? For instance, if someone is interested in hospitality, maybe they get a job at the hotel across the street, but how do they move from that entry-level position to a management position? And so working with partners like HCC, who is then working with partners like USF and the hospitality school, how do we provide those opportunities so people can move as far as their talents will take them?
Yeah, and if I may, Mr. Chair. Yeah, and again, such an important issue that I see local government doing more and more on them. The basic issue here is that, you know, we have to be able to equip people with the tools that they need to succeed so that we can teach a person to fish for life. But especially with returning citizens, that's such an important issue because there's such a stigma out there. There's such a prejudice out there. Things that are implicit in people. Look, I'm transparent. I always tell people 10 years ago, you would ask me about this issue, and I would have thought to myself, maybe not my issue. It is my issue. And like I always tell people, if you go to church on Sunday, it sure as heck has to be your issue. Because it's an issue of restoration, and it's an issue of making sure that people who just want to be able to work to put food on the table for their families and have dignity and respect are able to do that. And there's a lot of other things that we could talk about. Skilled trade apprenticeships, we've made some real good movement on that, work for people with disabilities, et cetera. But the major issue is equipping people with the skills that they need to improve their own life. And, you know, here in Florida, we could have a big discussion on our public school system. My son goes to public schools, and we have miles to go. And in fact, in my opinion, we've retreated on that issue a lot, and there's no greater investment in the workforce than a good quality public school system. But I could talk forever about that, but I won't. But thank you, ma'am, and thank you, Councilwoman Hurtak, for bringing this up.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
So I don't want this to be the end of this conversation, and I think it's actually kind of the beginning. And as the folks came up today to talk about Resolution 568 and the new committee that's been formed, I would certainly hope that they would be, and that you all would be invited during the conversation on economic development. But also, the thing that I'm asking you to tie in is what we are working on with youth. So not just a summer youth employment program, but how do we get youth? A lot of it starts very early. So we're looking at parks programs, we're looking at things to reach young people, and then once we have them, as they get into teenagers, And as they're looking for work, of the age that they can get a job, what are we doing to help them do that? Right now, we're not finding that connection. We're doing that somewhat with the city, which is great, but that's not enough. We need to figure out how we can take these types of programs and what we can do as a city and the partners we have to get folks on a career path early. And I think that's, as Councilman Vieira said, the schools, unfortunately, that has kind of regressed instead of gone forward. And we need to figure out how we can pick up the slack, because that is our role as government.
I agree with you, and I'm happy to say the schools have been a great partner. In the past year, we have worked with them with junior achievement, with their student consultancy program, and actually just had recommendations from a group of seniors who at Chamberlain High School who were working for about 5 months on how we attract young people in their cohort to apprentice programs. Obviously, we know that apprentice programs is a great gateway to the middle class, but it's not necessarily attractive to all young people. Not all young people know about it. So we decided to ask the experts, ask them how they might attract their peers to the program. So we're thinking about things like that, and we're certainly looking to utilize it in quick order.
Okay, great. Well, I would love to learn more about that. I'm not quite sure the motion I'll make on that, but I would love to get more information about what we're doing to actively target youth as we focus as the new budget cycle comes, and we're looking at how we provide opportunities for youth, how we can tie this all together. So I think I'd like to work with you all on that and figure out a motion and how we could move this forward. So I greatly appreciate it. Does anyone else today?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Just a couple quick thoughts. Number one, Nicole Travis has assembled a fantastic team, and you're two of them, Elise, Erica, others who have a bigger vision for economic development. And when people talk about economic development, usually they're talking about real estate development, or they're talking about recruiting companies from somewhere else. And the good news is everything we just talked about didn't really have anything to do with either one of those. And that just shows a broader vision. So I hope that whoever the mayor hires to replace Nicole has a similar vision. I hope that you all are able to interview them and give a thumbs up or thumbs down, because we need somebody with a big vision. And then the other thing is that in the community, there are a lot of groups that want to be the center or funnel of activity, and everything flows through them. And what I've heard loud and clear from the nonprofits in the community is they don't want a funnel. They want a collaborative model. And everything you talked about was collaboration and partnership. And everybody has a seat at the table. Nobody's in the center of it. Everybody's working together. And I think that's the only way that we're going to succeed. I think workforce development is really important. As you know, the community groups know their audience. They know the people. They know what the opportunities are. And they know how to recruit. They know what the training needs are. And we should trust them to work them. And it sounds like you're doing that, which is great. As we look forward, I think in the other segments of economic development that are not on the agenda today, we need to continue to look at that. By the way, I've had 2 conversations with Craig Richards from the EDC and Ron Cristaldi. Ron is stepping up as chair toward the end of the year, and we're having long discussions. Probably they're having discussions with you all too about some reforms and changes they want to make, and so I think that's all positive as well. The last thing is Javier. I think maybe both of you do measurement, but I know Javier especially does measurement. I would recommend, for anybody who's watching, if you go to tampascorecard.com, there's a lot of data on Tampa compared to other cities. The city now has its own economic dashboard also. You can go to the Florida Chamber Foundation scorecard and others, the regional scorecard, and you see that Tampa's numbers are not very good. The median income is high. The per capita income is high and is growing, but when we looked at outliers, we found that Tampa has a significant number of people making more than $200,000 a year, which artificially raises the median income. The per capita income. Then you look at median, at some extent, the same thing is happening because so many rich people move in. Also, there's gentrification, and where I'm leading is I think we need to work with USF to create a model. And I know you've done this before and you know how to do it. and I'm happy to talk to you about it, collaborate. It could be neighborhood by neighborhood, zip code, but there's also gentrification, which could throw that off. You could create a model where you have a control group, which is cross-sample of people, scientifically valid sample of people, and then a scientifically valid sample of people that you're helping, and look at the difference and the difference in wages over time. But I think that we need to, the public wants to see that we're using the money correctly, but also more importantly, as my colleagues have said, we have a duty to the public to help them earn more in the community, to improve their quality of life. We've done a lot to subsidize real estate and companies moving to the area. This is a relatively small amount of money that's going to have a huge impact on our community. I'd like to measure it so you all get credit for the good work you're doing. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Quick question. Can you say the name of the website again?
TPAWRX.com.
Ah, okay, that's it, WRX.
I'm told young folks like the spelling that way.
Okay, because, yeah, okay, just making sure that people know how to find it. Thank you so much.
I appreciate that.
All right,
Mr.
anybody
Chair,
else?
if I may make
Yes, sir.
one more comment. From the perspective of the employer, the Economic Opportunity Department has identified 11 areas in which we should or could or are currently influencing business growth throughout the city. There are 5 additional gaps that we have identified that we are working to leverage some federal funding so we can provide technical assistance to those very tiny businesses and or those middle-sized businesses from 6 to maybe 99 employees, so they can grow, they can provide more employment, so they can require additional skills. And these are going to be dedicated specifically to the most vulnerable communities. So we're looking at low to moderate income areas.
All right. All right, if you have not spoken and wish to speak on this item, please come up. You've already spoken.
But I can speak on this item.
Oh, okay, go ahead, sir, go ahead, sir.
Daryl
Say your name.
Height. Daryl Height. I'm semi-familiar with what is taking place over at the EDC because I reached out to them back in December. And the report she referenced from September, I actually read that report. And I started asking the question about how is this information, as Councilman Hurtak has stated, how is this information disseminated to the communities that are being underserved? I specifically asked about a program that's called CERT Up. And CERT Up is a program that is supposed to be assisting individuals with getting various certifications and different things to help them scale up in the employment space. But what I began to realize after seeing the players that's in this space, of course, is ran through HCC with Dr. Atwater, and I began to realize that this message never makes it to the community. This thing that report was ran in September. I'll read to you what Craig Richards said about CERT Up. While this has led to greater opportunities and income for many area residents, a large number of our underserved communities have not yet benefited from this increased prosperity. A lack of education and skills our employers require key reasons, but other factors such as proximity to good paying jobs play a role as well. Now, he is the head of this program. If he know that, and he just said it, and he has all these things available to him to make it happen, how is it that no one in the community, as I have asked, I'm the chairman of the Hillsborough County Black Chamber of Commerce. I have asked this question, who knows about CERT Up? Nobody knows. So the message is not being relayed for whatever the reason. And again, that rolls right back into 568 because again, we continuously keep hearing about these people and these organizations who drive their car and they put it in the garage. And they park it in the garage and they never bring it back out because once they have arrived home, they don't come back out to see what's going on. Earlier, or last week, Ms. Connie mentioned about passion and anger. See, I'm getting angry right now because we got all these organizations that say and play and do. But this thing been around and no one's heard of this CERT Up program. It hasn't matriculated through none of the circles. The other day, you would have thought I was part of the administration down there with the president. by so many people knowing who we were by the work that we've been doing in the community. But yet no one's heard about all these great things that my friend just discussed. And I don't take anything away from it, but we got to get the message out there. Put a billboard up. I see tweed signs all over the dang old city. They at least letting you know they making custom suits. Get the message out so the people can take advantage of it.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes, ma'am. Please state your name.
Valerie Bullock from Ponce Leon College here, and I'm just gonna piggyback on what he's saying. When you give the information to one organization, like the young lady said, she gave it to A. Brown Prison Ministry, that was targeted for the people who stay in the transitional houses, who's getting out of prison, who they have their contract with. We need to make sure it get out to John Q, who's walking down the street, who's not affiliated with nothing or nobody. And we can do that like EBT, where they go and sign up for food stamps at. We can find places where we can put the information out to make sure that it get to the people. And I'm not saying that it's not a good organization. This is what have been our elephant in the room for 20 years. Things are happening, but we never know about it. So we need to try to see if we can do a better job of putting the information out, and not just to one organization, but a lot more organizations. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Please state your name.
My name is Hassim. My name is Hassim Caldwell. I just want to say like the same thing what I've been saying. Everybody's saying the same thing. But that's what we have to do. But I just wanted to talk to these people. I don't know y'all number. Could I get your call?
Wait, no. This way, we need to pick you up on the microphone.
Oh, what I was saying was, I understand what everybody's saying. It's like the same thing, but we're on the right page now. We got the vision. Everybody's saying almost the same thing, but you have to come together. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I wanted to come up, because I heard of these people, but I never met them. So now that's what I'm doing now. It's gonna take me time to adjust. That's why I'm gonna be studying my words, because it's like, I'm up here now, but I just gotta get used to it. But I just wanna let people know that when you hear certain things and you want certain things, sometimes you just gotta go out there on faith, and maybe you will meet certain people. If it don't happen then, you just gotta keep making your circle bigger, and then God will put you in a place where you need to be. So all we have to do is continue on what we're focusing on and what we're talking about, and things gonna work out, but we have to come together. You can't try to be you and do this, you gotta come together. So that's what I wanted to get up to say, and I wanted to get your card. For sure.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, so Councilmember Hurtak, this was your motion, and what I'm hearing is, regarding communication and getting that message out there, how about, I don't want to say per se like a job fair, but getting out into the community, having some kind of community meeting or whatever to get the message out there for people, because I know it's on the website, I know it's out there digitally, but perhaps going into meeting with neighborhood associations, reaching out to neighborhood presidents, just making it as easily and accessible to everybody, but make sure that everybody gets the message. The city has the website, we have CTTV, we have so many things, but I think one-on-one meeting with folks and letting them know, hey, there's this opportunity, there are these opportunities, I think would be wise to do that. So go ahead.
I agree. So I actually, and again, I'll work on a motion with you for this so that we get exactly what we're looking for, but just a plan, just to let us know what your communication plan is, how that's going to be disseminated to the community. As you've heard from the community, they really want something that comes to them and doesn't just go through the nonprofits. And I mean, I have to imagine you have something in mind, but what is that? Can you speak to that now?
Yeah, I can. As it relates to the jobs and the certification programs, CareerSource Tampa Bay, that is the main conduit. There was a program that was mentioned that's run out of the EDC. There are a plethora of programs that are run from a number of people. What we try to do is not have the individual focus on that specific program name, because that's a little bit too much. That's the funding. But if they come in to the Workforce Board, if they go into CareerSource, or if they come in and talk to us, what they'll get connected to is the program that meets their needs. HCC does a great job of that, but it's really difficult if people try to remember the individual names. You just need to know what you're interested in, or what you might want to talk about possibly exploring. And then there are teams of people who are there to help an individual explore the opportunities and find the fit that's best for them.
And I think that's great, but it does seem like we're missing some organizations. Mr. Heitch's organization doesn't seem to know about this. So there are so many organizations, and I think that the issue is how do we reach every single one with what we're doing? So obviously I'm sure that you all will connect, but from that, again, what else can we do? And I mean, this is the age-old question of how we reach people.
Absolutely.
So working with,
How about we double back with the communications team and put together a plan to get the word out? on
yes,
some
and
of
so
the
that's that's kind of what I was saying. I'd like to, what we'll do is, I'll have you all and Kelly craft a motion. Generally, I don't want to just throw out a motion because I'd like to make it very specific. So maybe if we could work on a quick motion and I could present that next week as to what we want to see going forward. But yes, a communications plan and a strategy is exactly what I'd like to see.
Oh, great.
But
I
you
should
all can.
reach out to Kelly, Osea, we'll reach out to Kelly. and-
Yeah, we'll come up with the correct wording and language, but really knowing today, as people leave, knowing that the goal is a communications plan and that I'll be bringing a motion forward next week that has the dates, exactly what we want. So I do really appreciate it, and it sounds like we're on the right track, but yeah. Our next biggest challenge is how do we let people know about it? And I just want to say thank you for all your hard work. And we have more to do, but I know we're all up to the challenge.
It's
So
been a
thank you.
great team effort. We've made some good momentum.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we just want to make sure we get that next step and bring in as many people as possible. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to items 3 and 4. They tie in together. We'll start with 3 regarding the $1 million here and natural resources. Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir.
You want to go first, yeah. Sure. Hey, good morning, Whit Raymer, Sustainability and Resilience Officer. As you mentioned, I think we're going to take 3 and 4 together. We've got a slideshow, if we can get that going, and I think JC is going to kick it off, and then I'll wrap up on the tail end.
Thank you very much. All right, we have it up. Go ahead, sir. Good morning.
All right. Good morning, J.C. Hutchinson, Chief Building Official, City of Tampa. Thank you, sir. All right. So basically what we wanted to do, there was kind of 6 different sections of the motion. We kind of wanted to break it down based off of kind of the groups that are dealing with them primarily. So items 1, 2, and 3, talking about what can be done about mitigation trees. 2, how to increase and improve code enforcement. And adding the fine and punishment will be handled by myself. And then Whit will take 4, 5, and 6. So mitigation tree tracking. We've been working through Acela, which is our permitting system, to try to find a way to better track tree removal, tree replacement. Right now, the way we track them ideally are standalone permits. So that's if somebody calls in and says, hey, they want to remove a tree or they want to do something to a tree. That was really the only way that we had good, solid numbers. However, BLD permits, which is any construction going on in the city, we needed to make sure we were also encompassing them there. We do, to an extent, tracking is the issue because we do provide tree tables and they have to go through and talk about the replacement of the trees. However, you know, for the point of trying to calculate a tree canopy, where it is, how many are we losing of certain trees, it just was never really in one central location to be able to put that information together. So we started working probably about right after the tree canopy study came out to say, hey, how can we better track these trees? How can we get that information together that we can share with the public and for us to have a running tally as projects are being completed? So we started January 2024 to kind of put all that together, and we started April 8th of 2024. So as of right now, any future building permits that come in, any BLDs come in, we're able to track those numbers. And then so that helps us both ways. That helps us coming in the door so we can make sure obviously it's compliant. But then that's also a quicker place for my staff when they're out there doing finals to say, hey, this is the number of trees that are supposed to be out there, you know, simple, just counting the trees to say, hey, we need this many protected, this many grands, we're making sure that those trees are being there. So this is kind of a snapshot. This is what the staff will see. This is what staff will input, because we would prefer the staff to double check the numbers against the tree table. So you can see based off of we just kind of filled them all with threes, but just to give you guys a template of what that looks like. And so you're able to see what each different type of tree, what it was being removed, being replaced, and being credited. So ideally, we can track all of those phases of the process. If they decide that they want to pay into the tree trust fund, then that's also located in the same location. We wanted our staff not to have to jump between 3 or 4 different permits or 3 or 4 different records to try to find that information. It's all in one record. So when we get to our final inspection, this pops up, staff goes out to look to make sure all of the numbers line up. And so then that helps not only natural resources, but any other staff. If somebody's out there and they see it, they have one place in a cellar to go see and get all the information. Right now, they kind of have to go through the tree tables and kind of grab a page here, landscaping plan here, if there's a revision here. So for us, it was intentional to try to put it all in one place so it's easy access. 2, because these are all what's called ASI fields. Don't want to get too much in the weeds, but when it's an ASI field, you can then pull those numbers to track them. So at any live time, we can say, hey, how many grand trees have been removed based off of all of our BLDs? We can give you a number now. Right now, it's a labor because you have to go back through all the tree tables, which aren't really in an ASI format, to be able to pull those things out. So with us, the new tree tracking was provided within a cellar. I have some of my natural resources staff that's not too happy with me because it is an additional layer of work to try to extract that information, but there was really no other way to be able to do it. So we really think that's going to be something that we can provide, working with WIT to decide where we want to display that, where to put it online so the public can see it. But under a cellar, we'd be able to break those things down to be able to show you where those numbers are running.
Excuse me, Councilman Miranda.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. If somebody's unhappy with you, that means you're doing a good job. But on the other side, on the real fact, and I appreciate all your hard work and your individuals that you're working with regarding the tree tracking. And I think that South Florida, as I understand it, doing a study of where the trees should be planted at. And that's number one. Number two, if we have that in hand, it should not be too difficult. You know, when you apply to do a development or one building or whatever, it takes a long time, a period of time, I shouldn't say a long time, a period of time depending on how many cases are before you get to the final, before the council. So between all that time, should there be a plan that put the shared burden on both the one who wants to apply and the city who wants to receive, but also manage the tree fund? So at the time that it comes before council, in my opinion, there should be at least a conceptual understanding of how many trees are going down and where they're going to be planted. And that should be included in the site plan so that we know, all of us, and the public, more importantly than us, understands what we're doing and where the trees are at. There should also be a tracking system of where and how those trees are treated after they're planted. You can plant any tree you want, and if you don't take care of it, more than likely, it may not succeed. We can't depend on nature anymore, that it's going to rain only from June to September, because sometimes the way we're treating nature, that's not going to happen. It's just this year alone, we had rain where we weren't supposed to have rain, and when we need rain, you don't have rain. And so I'm putting back on your staff, on the job that they're doing, to work with the developers and the city staff, that at the time that it comes before us, we should have an x-ray of where those trees are going. And then who's going to have responsibility to take care of them? I'm not a tree expert, but I'm sure when you plant a tree, you got to water it so many days for so much period of time before it has a chance to be 100%. I should say 100%. There's nothing in life that's 100% accurate, unless your haircut and mine. So what we're going after is that tree then has an opportunity to more than likely succeed in growing. Otherwise, it will have the opposite effect of not succeeding in growing. And it would be a waste of time and money and a wasted opportunity that we should not go through. So I think that you're doing a great job, but I think that we got to do a step further, and let's put it together so that map is completed. The application is either approved, not approved, and That's how it goes. And I'm not an expert on trees, I'm not an expert, but I see that the plan is missing one thing. At the end, when does it happen and how does it happen, how is it maintained? Because if not maintained, there's no way that tree's gonna survive.
Thank you, sir.
And I appreciate later on, 60 or 90 days, if you can give us back a report on your conceptual ideas of how you work it out with the planners of the city.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right. The next part is code enforcement. With the natural resources section, especially for
Hold
new
on one second.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Councilwoman Herchard.
Appreciate it, like as we're going from section to section, just have a brief time for questions and comments. And I really do appreciate, I think it's a wonderful thing. I know it was an intensive labor to put all this organizing together. And I think it's wonderful that, you know, at the end, before certificate of occupancy, as you're closing out, you're double checking that all the trees are supposed to be there. However, the problem is, Ms. Sharf, do you have your phone by any chance? No, I'll grab it. Yeah, if you could grab your phone and then come over here to the Elmo. One of the problems, though, is that what's happening is when residents buy that new house, there's trees that are planted that they're just pulling out. I had to tell a neighbor who literally pulled the full tree out and put it on the side of the road, which it was planted poorly because it was still in its pot configuration, so that whoever had planted it didn't do a good job and all the roots were still root bound. And that's really why they got rid of the tree. They pulled it out because it was root bound. But they pull it out and they throw it on the side of the road. And I was like, well, you really should talk to your developer because I'm pretty sure that's a mitigation tree. And if you could pull up Miss Carol Ann Bennett's most recent email to us this morning, and this is what's happening. They're literally selling the trees, the mitigation trees that they're required to put in. Can you just scroll? Yeah, I mean, it's kind of wild, the stories that we're seeing. And she just, and I don't, but is there somewhere I can sell a newly planted oak tree that we're having removed from our yard? We don't want it, but the builders put it in. It's not an option for these people to take it out. And therein lies the problem. And so I really appreciate, I think you've done a great job with the first step of collating the information. But then what do we do with it? How do we tell these owners that it's a mitigation tree? How do we add a fine? Like, how do we make sure they know you cannot take this tree out? And if you do, you're going to have to put it back. How can we watch that? How can we target that? And that's what I believe that Councilman Miranda was also talking about too. Thank you so much, Ms. Sharp, because I think the visual on that was so brilliant.
Ms. Feely, you wanted to respond?
Yeah.
Well, I'm here with JC and with this morning, Abby Feely, Deputy Administrator, Development and Growth Management. Just wanted to say briefly, so we actually had our monthly meeting with TBBA, the Tampa Bay Builders Association, last month, and I was in attendance. I brought this up because we are aware, Ms. Bennett's communicating with us, and we are sending our teams out. But this is a balanced responsibility, right? The home builders also have to be informing when they're building these new homes that the city does have a landscape code. You are required 2 trees. You know, some of them have more trees because they took out other trees and they are mitigating. So we're aware of that. We've been working through it. Yes, you can't just sell, you know, you walk up and your trees are now, you know, new trees. And I've seen the Facebook posts. We are aware. We are working on it. And I'll let JC talk to that. Yes, if we go by, again, we've said to you all many times, there's 137,000 parcels in the city and there's only so many of us. So by people letting us know they're seeing that happen, we can react to that. If not, we can also work with our inspections team to see about doing something so many months after the CO is issued just to ride by and make sure that those trees are still there. But, you know, I don't want to commit that we're going to be able to see all of them. I think in the first 6 months of this year, we've permitted 525 new single-family homes. So that's 525 that are going to have new trees. or have retained their existing trees. But we are very much aware.
So on that, we're, the section is 27, 284, 22. So for mitigation trees, we have up to 6 months after the CO has been issued to go back and make sure those mitigation trees are doing what they're supposed to do. So we're doing that and coupling, working with Brian Knox with the planning to also kind of develop a hanger, just like we did the Know Before You Saw. So when we do that final inspection, that they have that hanger, put it on the door, so regardless of who's around, they're saying, hey, please be aware you may have mitigation trees on your site, mitigation, and then citing that section of the code. So that's where we're working at this point, because like I said, we're getting a lot more of those, unfortunately. And so that's kind of that back part of the enforcement, but we are actively working to start doing that. So we hope to have those hangers here in the next 60 days. Brian's kind of working with the marketing department, make sure it looks all nice. But ideally, the intent is a part of that final inspection to take that hanger, and then that hanger goes on the front door to say, hey, you could potentially, or you have mitigation trees on your site. Please be aware that per the section of code in 6 months, we are allowed to come back to the site per the tree code to go back and make sure that those trees are where they are and healthy.
On that door hanger, I would also really love it if you included the cost, the fine that could, if there is a fine. If there isn't a fine, we need to create a fine. What's the push for people to not get rid of the trees? And I think, and you have to make that big, because that's what people are going to see when someone buys a new house. All of the mail they get, all of the extra stuff. If you take out a tree, you could have a fine. But also, I think that Ms. Feely, your department has done a phenomenal job with gathering groups together, and so this might be a good time to get TTAG and the TBBA and the realtors together to kind of find a solution. How do we tell? I mean, other than these door hangers, is there? Because you're right, it's not just our responsibility. It can be a cooperative, hand in hand with both builders and realtors. How can we use them to help share that? Because those are the people that they have been working with the new homeowners, and they know them. And so I think that maybe a collective meeting together, trying to find the best way to get this information out. Because I don't think by and large people, if they don't know, they're just going to pull the trees out, which is what they're doing.
I just wanted to touch on that too. So JC and I actually met with GTAR this week, representative from GTAR this week, which is Greater Tampa Area Realtors. And we are going to be meeting with them in the fall. We're putting together a session to go over, because I think some of this too came up with the whole illegal construction issues. And also unpermitted work when people are buying and selling. So we had a very robust conversation earlier this week where we will be going out and doing a session. I think they're going to be able to count it as continuing education to share some of that information. So we could definitely add this to that as well. But we could still look at that. But I think we have several of those forums. We do have our quarterly advisory committees that JC heads up, that also provide a forum for us to continue to disseminate that information.
And I appreciate that, and I think it's great, but it's still one of those things where we're talking to multiple organizations, where maybe if we could all come together and find a way, for the builder's looking at it in one way, and a homeowner's group is looking at it a different way, like what's the best way. So I still think that there's value in kind of coming up with a meeting and coming up with a plan, because that's really the issue here is it's everybody's doing their own job, but no one's like coming.
Yeah, I'm actually teaching at the Mayor's Neighborhood University on May 11th, also Saturday morning, zoning 101 and 102, and I'm happy to include this in that dialogue as well as another forum to get some of that information out.
I think that would be wonderful. It's just anything we can do so it doesn't necessarily fall on staff. And I think the more education that we can provide and trying to get the buy-in from others, it's less work for you all in the long run. And that's it. You're right. It's very difficult to say after 6 months that we're going to be able to go back and look at every single tree. So what else can we do? And that's the way I see of us putting in the work ahead of time to have to do not as much work on the back end. So I really do appreciate that.
Anybody else? Anything else, sir, for your presentation before I go to public comment?
No, not for that section. I got
Okay,
two more sections.
go ahead, sir. No, wait, he's not done with the presentation. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, sir.
So-
Improve code enforcement.
Yeah, so under code enforcement, I have legal department here,
And we need it up on our screens as well.
sorry.
Okay.
Can you?
Yes, sir, go
Okay.
ahead, go ahead.
So, a lot of times we were looking for, people are saying, what can we do about the tree, cutters that come in and kind of cut trees and prune trees and, our normal stance is, hey, this is the property owner, this is the person who has the tree. However, we did go back to look at the definition there you see under 9-2 for a violator. So it states that the violator is a person responsible or believed to be responsible. So that's kind of giving us a little different perspective to look at how to enforce some of that. So what we're planning on doing now is to move forward to not only issue a notice of violation to the owner of the property, but also a notice of violation to that tree company. We can identify who they are, if they've got a dumpster or something, or they got a truck, and we have that evidence and we're able to get that information, we're issuing both the notice of violation to the owner and to the tree company. So then both of them will be responsible, have to go through their process, come see magistrate and figure out how they're gonna resolve all of that. So, that's one definitely thing that we're starting to do now. Unfortunately, tree cutters aren't required to be licensed. So once again, it's not something that we can go after somebody's license. We can't revoke their license to keep them from doing it. So unfortunately, it's gonna be a longer process to try to get some of the compliance there because, as you mentioned, if they don't know, they don't know. They cut the tree, homeowner pays them, they move on their way. So ideally, trying to be able to go after not only the owner, but the owner and the tree company to be able to get compliance better. So for us, it's just trying to find out who they are. I think I've got a picture on one here. So ideally, we got a dumpster, we got something we can go after, we've got photographic evidence of this violation happening, we can do something about it. So ideally, our plan going forward now is for any future illegal tree trimming or removal, that we will cite the property owner and we will cite the tree trimming company if they have their information and we can find out who they are.
Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, and I'm just thinking way out of the box, and the reason for what I'm gonna say next, because I've had two individuals in the last month or so call the office and ask this question. I just bought this house, and this is a very difficult situation I'm talking about. I just bought this house, and I got cited for having a violation on the property that I just bought. But I didn't do it. I bought it from the seller. The seller did it. Now, who do we go after? And that's a legal question. That's why I'm bringing it up. And the problem is, at the time, and I'm not a lawyer, and I don't know much about law, and I admit to that. However, that being said, at the time that you buy the house, does anybody tell you if there's any violations on that house? Is the seller's responsibility or whoever sold the house to you the responsibility? Or is it your own responsibility as buyer to make sure that there are no other legal or illegal things in your deed at the courthouse? That the city record these things so that when you do check, you find out that there is something there, you can get out of the deal? I don't know. So it's a vast question, but it's becoming, if I had one and I have two, that means that more than likely I'm gonna have more. So how do we stop that now? Because I don't want a massive thing of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 people. Who knows what's going on? And code enforcement, if it wasn't that code enforcement was doing the job, I wouldn't have had any, none. But I would imagine in my own little mind that somehow we're getting smarter and we're looking at Zillow and we're looking at a house that was 10 years ago, the house that is old, and now you see a different house on the same piece of property because it's been altered. And there was no deal. That's what I'm asking.
Councilman Miranda, Kamaria Pettis-Mackle from the City Attorney's Office. You've already made a motion for that, and it's coming up, I believe, in June, and I'll be able to address that at that time.
Well, thank you so very much.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
All right, so that's the section for code enforcement. I don't know if there was any questions before we go to the fine section.
No, sir.
All right.
Go ahead.
So we've talked to, we've heard from constituents about, how to address adding a fine or adding a max fine to the process. Unfortunately, based off of a citation, it does not provide a provision to Tampa Code section, I'll just read it so I don't mess it up. Section 23.5 does not provide a provision to issue a citation for removing a tree without a permit. So that's why it kind of moves to chapter 27 in that enforcement. We would not suggest moving to a citation because the maximum fine you can do is $500. So then therefore, that's a one-time offense. They do it one time and it's done. So therefore, if they remove multiple trees, that would be a one-time fine and that's it. So I personally, in looking at the, how we currently do administrative fines, we can designate a tree as irreparable or irreversible, and we can charge up to $15,000. So I wouldn't want to choose to go to a citation method where we're only charging $500 and it's a one shot and, cost of doing business. They, do it and say, hey, I'll pay $500 to cut that tree down. And as opposed to us dealing with it on a $15,000 per violation. You see what I'm saying? So then therefore those things can build up for bigger violations. So for us, we would not suggest changing that, based off of the way the tree code is written. That's why we have that $15,000. If we go to the citation process, it's more of a civil criminal situation. They come in a ticket, they pay the ticket, and they move on. So we would like to keep kind of the process as we have it for the $15,000 per violation to be used, because the magistrate, now we can take it to the magistrate, they can go up to $15,000, but that is on the magistrate to actually make the call of what that fine would be. They can charge up to $15,000 per violation. We can suggest a max fine, but it is ultimately up to the magistrate to do that. If you do the ticket, it's a $500, one shot, that's it.
Yeah. Councilmember Clendenin.
When you say per violation, so would each tree be a violation?
That is correct. It's up to the special magistrate. They could say $15,000 for the site, $15,000 per tree. Like I said, we make the case, and we tell them what we'd like them to do, but it's up to the magistrate to then make that judgment.
Thank you.
Councilmember Miranda, and then.
Along the same lines, thank you for bringing that up. Have we done a cursory review on how many lands we think we have more than 10 trees on, or 5 trees on? Because then you can get a scope to find out which is best to use, the 500 or the 15,000.
I'd have to get back with you.
I would suggest again that somehow, if it's possible, to find out how many pieces of property that we have that have more than 5 trees or 4 trees. Because now what you're asking for may sound great, but at the end somebody may have 30 trees for $15,000. That's a bargain. However, the other way around, it's not a bargain. So I don't know the answer, but maybe you can find out for us, if it's possible. I know I ask these simple questions.
I'll get with Brian Knox and kind of see.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead, sir.
So just kind of our action item for that, we just wouldn't recommend any change in that process, just based off of the variation of the citation. We'd like to keep the way it is. And another part of that mitigation is, you pay into the tree trust fund. So therefore, if it's a regular citation, it's a criminal citation, and we don't get that $500 back at all. At least under the $15,000 under the magistrate, it can be motion to pay into the tree trust fund, which then can at least lead directly to tree mitigation. And I believe that's my section.
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Hurtak.
Can you go back to the initial, or I don't even think we have to go back, but I appreciate the way we're looking at fines for cutting the trees, but I think, and I might have seen it, but I don't know if it was here. What can we do, and maybe it's too preliminary, maybe this is what happens during the session. What can we do to provide fines or fees or some type of punishment to people who take out these mitigation trees before they even have a chance to become something that's cut down? Right now, we don't have anything in. So the issue we just saw, where people pulling out the trees and they're selling them, we have no. What's our current recourse for that?
Well, they would be that violation of 284. So I mean, we could go back and then cite them for illegal tree removal, and then go through the. You know what I'm saying? Because because it is a violation.
Okay,
so we go back and confirm that, hey, you're supposed to have 3 mitigation trees. You pull 2 out to try to sell on Facebook. We go back and see that those aren't there, then we can cite you for illegal tree removal. And then that starts your process, to the magistrate.
Okay, that makes sense, and that's what I would put on the door hanger. You could be fined up to $15,000 per tree you remove. You put that on a door hanger, that's serious. Like, that's not, yeah, I mean, that's a lot of money. So it gives people to at least be interested, oh gosh, okay, what do I need to do? What are the next steps? And again, as we put a group together to kind of figure it out, to really help people, but thank you. I appreciate the clarification because that's kind of what I needed to know, and what I need the public to know is that if you take out even a mitigation tree, that's $15,000 a tree, up to $15,000 a tree.
I absolutely agree with that because $500, it's a lot of money, but $15,000 is scary. I mean, it's much scarier, and I think that would send a message. Up to 15,000, you know, people would look at it and think twice and 3 times and 4 times, so. Yes, sir. SNR.
Hi, good morning, Council. Whit Raymer, Sustainability Resilience Officer. I'm going to take the remaining 3 items, but first, I just want to recognize, hey, boys, how do you think Dad did? Yeah?
I was wondering, you know, who was in the back so good.
If we can have the slideshow back up. So the last 3 parts of this motion were, and this is also item 4, was keeping track of the $1 million USDA grant, creation of a larger citywide tree maintenance program, and incentivizing live oaks.
Excuse me, what is SNR?
Sustainability and resilience. Sorry. Okay, so keeping track of the $1 million USDA grant. This was accepted by City Council, I believe, last week. So this grant, this actually was we applied for $27 million for this grant. We received $1 million. And it's a really exciting opportunity for us. The funds under this grant are very flexible. But the primary thing I want to point out here is that one of the stipulations with this particular grant fund was that if the receiving entity wanted to avoid a cost share match, those funds needed to be spent in specific census tracts, what are called Justice 40 census tracts. As part of a larger Biden administration initiative to spend 40% of federal funds in disadvantaged and low-income areas. And so for this particular grant, honestly, just for administrative purposes, and frankly, to address inequalities that we see in these census tracts, we really wanted to focus and hone in and spend this $1 million right in those census tracts. So that kind of limited the grander ideas that we had in the larger $27 million grant. So here's what we're doing to ensure that we get the best value for this $1 million. We just completed the urban forest canopy analysis, so we have a really good idea of where we have lost canopy or where we had no canopy or low canopy to begin with. We've taken that data and we have overlaid that with the Justice 40 tracts and areas where we know via satellite and surface land temperature are hot neighborhoods. And we've taken these 3 data points and combined them with some of the outreach that was conducted as part of the urban forest canopy analysis by the University of South Florida, who we've asked to continue help us identify strategic planting areas in these census tracts. So here are the census tracts with high heat, low canopy, and our Justice 40 tracts. As you can see, it's kind of like a belt across the city, stretching from Drew Park, kind of West Tampa Airport, down through north of Kennedy and up in to Ybor downtown and to the western part of East Tampa. Here's some more visualizations of how we're doing all this using sophisticated satellite and GIS data. So we are then overlaying that information with areas of rights-of-way. These particular funds can be used on private or public property. We are going to look at opportunities for both of those, but primarily we will be focused on public rights-of-way for this grant, and to ensure that we are meeting several of the goals that we know City Council and the administration want to meet, and that's providing shade along low-stress networks, along bike corridors, along heavily pedestrian trafficked corridors. We've now overlaid that with our mobility network, And so we're finding these kind of pockets, these parcels, or what are called in GIS polygons, that seem like they are good spots to plant trees. Now, I say seem with great emphasis, because the first desktop exercise that we did, we thought we identified some really great streets in McFarland Park, and we got our team to go out there and start walking those streets. And lo and behold, you know, the GIS layers didn't really tell us the full story of what it actually we were seeing on the ground. And I can tell you, you know, in sustainability and resilience, we cover a lot of issues. Planting trees in an urban environment is the hardest thing that I am doing at the City of Tampa right now. It is the hardest thing, and planting live oak trees in particular becomes exceptionally more difficult, because landscape architects, the mobility department, the right-of-way team, the foresters, TICO, the infrastructure team, they all have rules that say where we can put a tree. The canopy as it exists now would never exist as it does now if we had to follow these same types of protocols. There are pipes underground, there are transmission lines overhead, there are sidewalks, there are curbs, there are ADA accessibility issues. It is really a precise exercise in trying to figure out where these trees can go. So here again, these are some of the corridors in McFarland Park that were identified on the GIS exercise. And this slideshow hasn't been updated to kind of show the real-time street view when we got out there. But we will continue to work with USF. We will spend this $1 million using the best data available, talking also with the neighborhood associations, talking with the community groups, and ensuring that we do the best we can. I can tell you every other city is also going through this exercise. There was a big article this week about how Miami is dealing with this. It's really challenging, but I promise you, you have the full weight and the support of city staff and neighborhood associations trying to work this out. Okay.
Thank you for that section, and we probably should have stopped before, because number 3 ended, and we really needed to have public comment for that before we moved to item 4. But
I think we combine the two together.
yeah, but the public's going to want to speak twice, I'm pretty sure. But who does? I guess one of the big issues is who decides where these trees go. So a good example is I talked to you on Tuesday about a tree planting in Henry and Ola Park, and the neighbors were so excited about this tree planting. And then people got out there on Wednesday when the trees were supposed to be planted, and there's 4 or 5 live oaks, and the rest of them are crepe myrtles. Just walking through the park, I got 3 complaints from neighbors, because why are they planting crepe myrtles? We don't want crepe myrtles, we want shade trees. And this was in an area of the park that we were told we couldn't put a dog park because there are no wires above, there's no infrastructure below. It's just open space, and it's along Ola Avenue, which is going to be a bikeway. So why wouldn't we have planted oak trees? And so that's kind of an issue of how, if we're prioritizing shade along corridors that actually can take the shade, what do we do? Or how are we not connecting somehow with that? How is the communication getting?
Sure. So I think depending on where the tree is being planted and who the sponsoring department is, will give you some indication of the type of tree selection. We have a tree matrix for the city that lists all the types of trees that we encourage planting here. There's also shade trees, there's understory trees. So the mantra that leads the day here is right tree, right place. Mm-hmm. So for this particular planting, I know this was a Keep Tampa Bay Beautiful sponsored planting. Because it was in a city park, our landscape architects would have had probably the greatest say in tree typology and selection. Kayla, do you have any information on that particular project?
Hey everyone, yes, absolutely. Kayla Casoli, City of Tampa staff. So for that specific planting, it was landscape architects, I believe, who drew up the plan in our Parks and Recreation department. So that they were the one who decided on trees, and just as Whit said, I know they try to balance, I mean, biodiversity, so also having different types of trees and then the right tree in the right place. Beyond that, I don't have any further information.
Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Raymer, how many slides do you have left in your presentation?
It looks like three substantive slides.
Councilmember Clendenin.
Yeah, reference the landscape out, I was just rung a bell. On Bay Shore, they plant clump palm trees instead of shade trees. I mean, those type of thing, and I hear it's landscape architects. How does that happen? That we're end up planting in these wide open spaces, that we're planting clump palm trees and not shade trees? I don't get it.
I think that tree selection, again, probably is determined using a variety of factors.
So how do we trump that?
Well, I mean, this is professional expertise, and
How do we
probably
question that professional expertise?
Come again?
How do we question that professional expertise?
I suppose we could have conversations with the landscape architects about why they're choosing those trees on Bay Shore. I imagine it's probably a combination of space, maintenance needs, and what residents in the community along Bay Shore either have asked for or are accustomed to.
Oh, no, they don't ask residents of the community. I am one of those residents. They don't ask. We wake up in the morning and we just see things happening. Nobody asks us anything.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you that we push the boundaries all the time, asking hard questions about how to get more trees in. So you're not going to find a bigger advocate for putting new trees in the city, especially shade trees.
Well, it was just interesting because you said the right tree, the right place. It just seemed like clump palm trees is just not the right tree for any place. You know, it's like, what it is, it's not a habitat, it's not a shade tree.
It's actually not even a tree.
Yeah,
Palms
exactly.
aren't even trees.
There you go, exactly.
But it could be a combination, again, between the available space, that's both the canopy and the root system. It could be replacing a tree that was in kind and like, so if there was a royal palm, or not a royal palm.
I think they just had access to big palm, these things.
If you can give me a specific tree example, I can figure out why that tree was selected.
Between Swan and Brevard on Bay Shore.
Okay, I'm sure staff is watching, we'll take note of that and get an answer.
Councilmember Hurtak, you had mentioned about public comment. You want to stop here and go to public comment and then kick it off again?
I mean, I guess we could just finish this and then do public comment on the first part and then public comment on the second part. I think that would be, because the public is here to talk about trees and they're going to want to talk about it twice because we have two separate items, and I think that's the right thing to do. So, but he's almost done. But I wanted to add in that if I could get a response for why they put crepe myrtles instead of shade trees along Ola, that would be great.
Sure.
Because the neighborhood really wanted places to picnic or read a book under a tree, and crepe myrtles aren't going to provide for that.
We can provide an answer for that. Yes,
Thanks.
ma'am. Sure.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, the next part of the motion was a request to look at creating a larger tree maintenance program for low-income residents. I think part of this motion might have been prompted by a pilot program that the East Tampa CRA instituted, whereby residents were reimbursed up to $2,500 for tree maintenance that occurred on their property. That program was oversubscribed very, very quickly, both in terms of interest and the financial impact of that program, I think, which is shows an interest. It shows it's a good thing. That program's been paused. It's no longer accepting new applicants. The administrative oversight and burden of that program, I think, became very challenging to manage. The CRA isn't really set up to manage those types of individual grants at the scale and the volume that they received. Right now, just for context, our city maintenance program is budgeted at $2.3 million. That program has indicated that to be on a more schedule of 5 years, which is kind of best practice, their budget would need to be between $4.5 to almost $10 million. Right now, the 16 folks that work in that department spend about half of their time responding to emergency work orders, helping reduce significant and immediate liabilities to the city. That could be branches on sidewalks, on cars, and parks. They spend a lot of time doing emergency work orders, and when they're not doing emergency work orders, they are trying to do proactive maintenance. So all that to say, the city right now doesn't recommend expanding or starting a new low-income maintenance program, given the incredible burden that our maintenance department has just for the city's trees on city rights of way. Okay, the final thing, incentivize live oak plantings. Again here, right tree, right place. I'm told that in an ideal circumstance to have a live oak planted, you need 100 feet of clearance in every direction. So I challenge you, go find 100 feet of clearance in any direction, on a city right of way. That seems like a good place to plant an oak tree. I think we're gonna have to find some flexibility in these rules and get creative. There are ways that you can plant trees in these specialty tree boxes that will help direct root growth in certain certain directions. Again, the live oaks that exist here exist here because of development. I know that's kind of paradoxical in today's world, but if you look at pictures of South Tampa from 100 years ago, it was mostly slash pine and palm. A lot of these single-family ranch homes that have a laurel oak planted right in the front or right in the back, they were probably planted there post-war by the family. They were all excited to dig a tree and put it right in front of the house. And that's been great for the last 70 years, but we're at a point in our tree canopy where we're focused on regeneration, and we've got to continue to find the right place to put those trees. I can tell you, just based on some anecdotal and real evidence that we've seen through our giveaways and through the Tremendous program, live oaks continue to be one of the least popular trees to replant. I think we all know that the maintenance burden on those can be very expensive and can have big impacts on your insurance rates if the trees hang over your roofs. So those are a couple of the reasons that we've heard, in addition to the pollen and all those other things. Parking spaces, we hear a lot of reasons why the big shade trees aren't desirable. And we need to continue to educate the public to find ways to show them the benefits of the big shade trees, the stormwater benefits, the carbon sequestration, the healthy air, the aesthetics, the property values, all those things that we know. And the Parks and Rec Department is procreating thousands of live oaks. We will continue to plant shade trees every single place that a shade tree is appropriate. And other than that, we hope to also continue to diversify the canopy and bring in, there are literally hundreds of trees on the tree matrix. So just focusing on live oaks is important, but doesn't paint a full picture of the entire diverse canopy. With the port being here, invasive species can be introduced. It is likely in all cities that have kind of a monolithic canopy that at some point disease will strike and you'll lose a portion of the canopy. So we really want to continue to diversify the canopy as well. I just thought I'd touch real quick on the 30,000 tree strategy. This is something that we announced a year ago. We need to be doing about 5,000 trees a year. Right now, we're doing about 2,500. So, it's really building new muscle and putting new contracts in place, getting new staff in place. For the last 10 years or so, Tremendous has really been the only right-of-way planting program that the city has sponsored. We do a great job planting in our city parks, and with the Green Team, we're continuing to do that. But we are trying to institute entirely new planting programs, whether it's with the neighborhood, whether it's through the tree giveaway, this USDA grant. So we've got to unlock the potential to plant these new trees. And right now we're competing with $20 million floating around other cities in Miami-Dade County who are fighting for trees from the tree farm. So inventory is also coming up in both short supply and with price tags 3 to 4 times than what we saw in in previous years. Again, the 30,000 tree strategy, we think it's bold but achievable. It has nice alliteration with the 30% open and tree space, open and natural spaces initiatives that many environmental and conservation organizations have pushed. And of course, we know that the biological and health threshold for a healthy tree canopy is 30%, and that's what we're at right now. So we really need to make sure that we're going in the right direction moving forward. That's the end of my presentation. Happy to take questions.
Councilman Condon and her.
How closely do you work with mobility and creating streetscapes to like landscape medians for cooling and so as they're designing or repaving that we maybe can find spaces in medians or in these areas, maybe protecting bike lanes with landscaping?
It's a great question. It's a critical need for more interdepartmental coordination. Mobility, I think, is open to incorporating landscaping into plans. I think for a lot of projects, landscaping is kind of the last thing in the budget. Sometimes it gets cut. You add irrigation on top of that. Irrigation can be twice as expensive as the actual landscaping itself. So, that's a department that, as they continue to do street renovations and redos, we'll certainly look for those opportunities. The South Howard flood relief project is a great opportunity for that.
Absolutely. Now, is it something that somebody in your department could be proactive and maybe reaching out to mobility to as they see maybe opportunities if they're looking at these projects to work at the beginning of the design phases of these projects to incorporate landscaping, or do you think it would be reversed? Do you think it would be mobility reaching out to you all?
I think both would be great. I'd love for them to pick up the phone and call me and say, we got a project, we'd like some trees. And conversely, if I see projects, kind of coming through the system, I always reach out to them and offer assistance and money.
Why don't we offline of this, figure out a way of maybe working with the mobility department and maybe come up with a procedure to kind of make this happen? Because I think that's a good idea. Because we're talking about doing a lot of mobility projects in the city, making sure that we have that coordination and that we take this into account. I think that would be a great idea to be able to come up with a way to be able to integrate the two departments to look for these kind of opportunities.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Hurtak.
I would actually like you to make that a motion because there's a lot that goes into it, and right now we are planting grass that needs to be mowed, that needs to be. My pollinator garden is gorgeous and requires no maintenance.
Right.
So I'm just saying.
I'm thinking maybe we could let's take it. Maybe it's a little premature. Maybe we'll get the structure together and then come back with the motion.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So just I'd like it to come back because I think it would be interesting.
I'll take an IOU on that to follow through on it. And Tim, if you're listening, make sure that I do that. And yeah, exactly.
And we do, as part of our climate action plan, the mayor issued an executive order saying every CIP project, everything that we build needs to look back at our resilience plan and our climate plan, and you better believe the urban canopy and planting trees is top of the list in those plans. So they are under the administrative, the executive order to follow that, and I continue to work both on a professional and personal basis with those departments to try to incorporate those best practices.
Thank you, Whit. It's a good presentation. Thank you so much.
But that my point was not just the trees, but everything else that we're putting under the trees, because that's a big expense for us right now is all these contracts to mow, and we could do better. But to go back to the maintenance program, you say that the maintenance program is expensive and unwieldy, and I can understand that. But then, how do we incentivize planting live oaks? We can't do that without maintenance. And so I think that's our balance, is to find a way to reconfigure the program to help people. But I don't think that getting rid of the program is something that we can afford as a city. And I understand that there's a cost to it, and I understand that the tree companies were going at $250 or $2,500. They were doing the max for even a little tree trim, but there has to be a way to change the program so that's not the way it's done. There has to be, and however we want to do it, I just think it deserves another look, because if we're looking at planting trees in these Justice 40 tracks, we have to find a way to help people learn about why planting these trees is important, but then how do we help them maintain it for folks who may not be able to afford it? And again, you're not worrying about today's trees that we're planting. Those aren't the issues. It's the trees that have been here. And that need is not going to go away as we plant. The need, as you said, for these laurel oaks, especially as they reach their lifespan and they fall on people's houses, if they can't afford to fix that, or trying to get the tree down before it falls on your house. I do believe, again, that that's something that we as a city should be helping citizens. This goes along with keeping people in their homes. And so it's larger than just trees. It goes to affordable housing as well. So I would ask that we find a way to look again at how we can work on that program. If it's more funding, then that's something we ask for in the next budget. If it's, it just seems like this iteration didn't work out, but what's a new iteration that we could come up with?
Perhaps a solution to kind of get this off the ground again would be maybe to see if through the owner-occupied rehab program, where we're already on site and doing work, if we could look at maintenance opportunities there. Again, I would caution about setting up a standalone low-income maintenance program right now, just given the balance of city budget needs and administrative burden on that. But if we're already out there doing life safety upgrades to the house, the front porch has a hole in it, or any other eligible activities that the owner-occupied program has, and there's a tree limb hanging over the roof, maybe that's something that we could support with some additional funding.
Good morning, John Bennett, Chief of Staff. Good morning to the public. Just to augment the question and Whit's comments, I had sparked a thing with Nicole to look at the job order contracting for CRA for roofing. Maybe I can look at the same thing with job order contracting through the CRA and other things for the tree aspects. So that's something I'll take back and try and work with the team on.
I appreciate that, because that really does. The older trees, that's it. People can't stay in their homes if they're worried about that tree falling on it, because then it becomes a huge issue for us. Then that becomes homeowner occupied rehab of fixing a roof and fixing the air conditioning system. And so if there is a way, I would really appreciate that. I think honestly, just finding a way to stop folks from billing for the highest cost when it's not a highest cost issue is really the issue. And I think we could fix that. So I appreciate that.
And the other thing with the job order contracting, it lends itself to a lot of equal business opportunity positions too. So it could be a win-win if we can work through this as we're navigating for the other elements.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Cross.
Yeah, I want to echo what my colleague just said about the CRA maintenance program, and maybe we should bring this back up at the CRA. I think of the CRA as a separate entity. By law, it's a separate entity. We have an outsourced contract with the city, and for that, the city provides, in addition to what we pay, the city provides purchasing services and legal services for free. But if the CRA was a separate entity, it would pay for those services. And if what we need to do is think about what the CRA had on. If we were a standalone entity, how would we handle this? And if that means that we have to pay for an additional level of outsource for purchasing or something, it seems like it would be worth it. But I think maybe we should talk about this more in the CRA. I don't think the CRA should be limited by the city's capacity on things. It should be a faster, nimble organization. But also from a customer point of view, you hear that almost every week we have folks talking about how we need to provide services, especially to East Tampa and other areas. And I've heard more compliments and thanks about that program than anything else that we've done in East Tampa, because it touches a lot of people. Also, it puts, as we've talked about, it puts people's houses at risk, causes all kinds of other problems. The other thing is that depending on how much they cut, it should be a once in 5 years situation, or maybe a once in 10 years thing. But I would encourage us to talk more about it on CRA. Just some quick notes. Similar to the housing goal of 9,000 or 10,000 homes, whatever it is. I don't really like having a number like that of 30,000 trees. It's great for marketing purposes, but the downside of it is that the times where somebody's going to come back and say, "Oh, well, did you really do this? Are you telling the truth?" And I would rather take, if you go to the last bullet point, whatever the tree cover is now, and if it's, do you know what it is?
30% exactly.
And so that's our goal, or
That's what the tree cover is now.
So I would.
It's really, really difficult to equate new tree plantings with additional canopy cover. The goal is fun.
But we're trying to protect trees, and we're trying to build. So, I know the administration is probably not going to change it, but I don't like these numbers because affecting the tree canopy. Just like when we're talking about economic development, if we talk about median household income, that's a real goal that it has a lot of inputs into it that really affects people. The same thing here. The tree canopy is really the outcome goal. That the output is the trees. I'd rather us focus on outcomes. Next. 275, I talk too much about having lived in Singapore. Singapore, they call it Garden City, Green City. The founding prime minister personally picked out trees and brush to put in. And I think in these rankings of trees, we rotate between number 1 and number 2 with Singapore. I think recently we're number 1 even. But if you go from the airport to downtown Singapore, the thing that you notice is that the entire highway is covered with tree canopy. And it's the first impression everybody has. When we had the Prime Minister of Singapore here about 20 years ago, we had to talk to him to distract him. We took him down 275. And I know we're limited by what FDOT will allow. St. Pete under Mayor Fisher planted a bunch of trees, not oak trees, but they planted a bunch of trees in the median, and then 10 years later or so they ripped them out. But I wish we could find a way, at least with part of our interstate, to put trees that will create shade and canopy, because that has a huge branding effect on the city. It also will calm people down. It lowers the temperatures. People are sitting in cars. And so I wish we would look at that at some point. I want to talk more about the other presentations, but the one link to all of them is we need more public education. We need a whole campaign around this, and my colleagues have talked about that. We need to for sure talk about the fines, and I like the message up to $15,000 fine. Some people will say, "Oh, well, that's just the cost of business," and some developers have done that. But for most people, $15,000 is a pretty big threat. The other thing is that's not clear, as a homeowner myself, if you want to tear out a tree, I have a tree in my yard that people say is a junk tree. I don't even know who in the city to call. We need to publish an 800 number. We need to offer the free trees. We need to talk about placement. In 1976, people planted trees underneath power lines in New Suburb Beautiful. In my street, they planted trees in a way that breaks up the streets. In Gulfview, they planted trees in small median where it's ripping up their roads and the sidewalks. We need to talk about the type of tree. And the last thing I want to say is the DNA of the tree. This is thinking way in the future. Are you looking at biodiversity of the DNA? Are we bringing in different live oaks from different areas, or is it okay just to use the same source base?
Yeah, a lot there. I'll try to capture maybe going backwards. When we were walking around McFarland Park, some of our tree experts had talked about how the live oaks are actually all kind of like slightly different species now and have adapted to the specific climate. Both through the species, we're trying to increase biological diversity. And I do think that probably some of the agricultural work that's going on at UF-IFAS is identifying new live oaks that are the best for this part of Florida. So I'll continue to look at that. That's a good question. We do have 2 campaigns related to both the Trees for Tampa. That's a 30,000 trees goal, and then I think it's Call Before You Saw. Is that it for the? No, what is it? Know the Law Before You Saw. That's another campaign that we've got. So there are some public campaigns that are out there, both on the illegal cutting side and on the replanting, regrowth side. 275 interstates and trees, typically don't mix, but maybe some of those smaller arterials and collector roads, definitely to Councilman Clendenin's point, looking at opportunities to work with both mobility and FDOT. And again, some of this is getting in the project early, putting the irrigation in to the median. I know that's been a holdup on many of the projects. For the trees that we're putting in right now, I am really gonna push hard to make sure we've got bubble irrigation on all the new right-of-way trees that we put in, because getting hand watering done every day for the first kind of like 60 to 90 days can be challenging. I think there are also some workforce opportunities there that we can explore. But again, that might include needing a commercial driver's license, needing a new water truck, developing and creating the schedule. And again, right now, outside of the Tree Mendus program and the Parks and Rec Department, who plants trees just in city parks, me and Kayla are really the only ones that are focused on planting trees in the right of way. And so it's a heavy lift. And so developing these new protocols will be something that will take time, but know that we're thinking about it. Councilman, did you have any other, I know you had a lot there. I just want to make any specific, okay.
Councilman Miranda, then Clendenin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just running my mind back to 1979, so it happens that I was here. Mayor Poe and the 6 other council members with myself make 7. You weren't allowed to plant a tree on private property. You had to put it in the right of way, if I recall. So that's what happened in 1979.
And that's still the case with tree trust fund money right now.
Right, I understand that. We're trying to change that, that bad habit. I'm gonna just call it a habit, so that, but things are getting better. It may take some time. You're not gonna do this overnight, and 30,000, you can have 10,000 or 50,000. You gotta have a goal no matter what you wanna do. If not, you're gonna stay right where you're at for the rest of your damn life. That's how I look at it. If you don't have a goal to attain that goal, even if you fall short, sometimes you go over your goal, that's wonderful, either way. But you must set a standard, no matter if it's whole high, so you can attain that goal. In any sport, you're not gonna be a quarterback or a baseball player or hockey player. You said, I'm never gonna score a goal. That's my goal. No, I'm gonna score the most goals, even if you don't, but you want that incentive. You gotta give, you know, winning is only one thing. You know what it means? That you never want to lose. And that's how you win. But that's just my say for the day. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Clendenin.
Yay. Councilwoman Hurtek, Chairman Maniscalco, and myself sit on the TPO. There's been a big issue with Robles Park and FDOT. Secretary Gwynn has committed to doing, so we've got a concrete barrier going in between 275 and the park. But he's also committed to doing a landscape buffer, but part of that, to be able to do the intensity that's required, requires right-of-way from the city and support from the city. So can you work with our mobility department, maybe Chief Bennett, can you maybe be a go-between to ensure that happens? Secretary Gwynn's amicable to be able to create a landscape plan to make this happen, but it needs city support to be able to use the right-of-way that FDOT has along with the city right-of-way to be able to put this program together.
Yes, sir, and I believe our Director of Parks and Recreation met with residents out there and looked and is actively exploring options to create a green wall or enhancements. And I believe that FDOT has a certain percentage of their project budget that has to go to landscaping.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah, they just, in fact, FDOT, Secretary Gwynn committed saying that they would support the program. They just needed the city to come on board with because we have the part of the right-of-way that's required.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Raymer, does that conclude everything with 3 and 4?
Everything I've got for right now, yes, sir.
Okay, I'm gonna go to public comment. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. If somebody wishes to speak again after I go through everybody, because it's 2 parts and per the request of Councilmember Hurtak, we'll take it up like that. Then we'll go to the registered public speakers.
Justin Vasky, Legal Department. My recommendation is to identify item 3 for public comment.
Okay.
Then identify
Okay.
item 4 for
Fair enough.
public
All right,
comment.
if you're here to speak on item number 3, please come up, state your name, you'll have 3 minutes, and then we'll ask about item 4. Yes, sir, Mr. Michelini, please state your
Steve
name.
Michelini, I'm also the chairman of the Builders Association Governmental Affairs Committee for Tampa. And first, I want to tell you, we've been working very closely with J.C. Hutchinson, Abby Feely, every month regarding a variety of issues, and trees and has been one of those big issues that we've worked through, including the tree inventory that J.C. and his staff have put together. As he said, it was a monumental task, and tracking where those trees were has it was a problem. The Builders Association does not support the removal of trees once a house is occupied. And there's a constant policing activity that goes on. All of those properties on new houses are warranted for a year. And every homeowner that moves into a house is given a package of information and a tutorial, and they have the tree and landscaping people, they have the sprinkler people. They are all there and explain exactly what has to be done to maintain those trees. So, and the rest of their lawn. If something happens within that warranty period, it's replaced. So the contractor has to come back and replace those trees. So if somebody opts to remove a tree, that is done without the knowledge and certainly without the permission of the contractor. There is self-policing as well. We see those same emails and those same Facebook posts, and the contractors are pretty upset about it when they see it because they've spent a lot of money to put those trees in place and then somebody wants to sell them. So there is a lot of that going on. There is a specific care package that's given to every homeowner when they go in so that they know exactly what they're supposed to do. They know about the irrigation system, they know about caring for the trees, and that they also have an obligation to maintain them. I'll just skip for a second, but if you had 100 by 100 foot area to plant a live oak, not one of the rezonings that I bring to you would be allowed to show you a live oak being planted in that property. Because, it doesn't make sense. We're showing you live oaks, we're showing you shade trees going into these projects. If you needed that much space, it would take up the entire lot. So I don't know, I think that probably that criteria needs to be looked at. But the right-of-way trees, we know that they are not maintained, and the public maintenance of those trees, especially in the less affluent areas, is extremely important. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have, but certainly I wanted you to know that the Builders Association does not support nor condone the removal, but rather the maintenance and the care for all of those trees. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes, ma'am, please come up and state your name. And you're speaking on item number 3, correct?
I think so. It's so much information. My name's Allison Date, and I'm with T-TAG and Sierra Club. First of all, I just want to say that I'm really grateful that this is being addressed because we've been asking some of these questions for as long as we've been in existence. And so it's really nice that it is being addressed because I think it's very important that we know that we do have some kind of a summary sheet of what's being planted and what's being taken out, and that it's an ongoing event, which I think happened before this administration, and then everything got dispersed, and that was eliminated. And so it would be nice to be able to have an answer. Oh, how many grand oaks have been cut down this year? And nobody could ever say until the survey came out, which is, you saw how long it took for that to happen. So I'm really happy about that. I think that I'm concerned about the keeping track of the maintenance of the, and I don't know if this is the right time to say this, the maintenance of the mitigation trees and the giveaway trees. That it has to happen. I think it takes 2 or 3 years for a tree to be established. So in that 2 or 3 year period, on regular intervals, somebody should, maybe people could have to take a picture and send it in. Somebody doesn't have to go there, but to show the tree's still there, it's alive, I think would be good. Otherwise, we're planting all these trees, but are they living? Are they surviving? And if they aren't, then we're not going to meet our goal either. So technology is great. I also want to see those trees all on the tree map. The mitigation trees, the giveaway trees, the live oaks, the ones that, and maybe that I wanted to get all the live oaks on the last tree map because then I think we could look to see how many of them got cut down. So that, and my one other thing I wanted to say, but I think I can't say it yet, I don't know, is about the, somehow, is the fine, is that the next one? Oh,
It's
that's
all
this
about
one
this,
too?
yes.
Okay, is that the fine for the tree cutters, somehow, maybe it could be connected to the owner. The owner should be able to identify who cut down the tree. So if they can't, then maybe they need to be charged an additional fee. I don't know, but then at least you could know who the tree cutters are who are doing it. So that's all I have to say, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. Please come on up and state your name.
Hi, good morning, Nancy Stevens. I'm also with T-TAG and the Tampa Bay Sierra Club, and I want to thank you for all this, and progress is being made. I do like to see that. I wanted to kind of bring up something that Whit brought up, which was how difficult it is to plant a new tree. And he gave an example of McFarland Park, which I thought was very interesting, because, and that kind of goes back to item 3, which is saving the trees we have, which just shows it's more important to save the trees we have, because maybe they're irreplaceable, because you can't actually, if you take it out, you may not be able to put one back there because of the constraints. And McFarland Park's an excellent example. I know of someone was telling me about a new construction across the street, and they tore down a tree to put in the plumbing and the electric for this new house. Well, why wasn't that tree saved, the plumbing and electric routed in a way to avoid the tree and save the tree? And so I mean, trees should be considered infrastructure. Trees should be protected. I don't know why the tree in that case was not protected and worked around. So, and now probably can't be replaced because now this thing's underground, you know, and it can't be replaced. So that was, you know, again, I think the steps being made by keeping track of it, and we can work towards that goal. But I think the goal should be to preserve the canopy and as much as possible. And on one other point, the 100-foot canopy for live oak. So the Ritz-Carlton was put in oak trees. They put these townhouses in, so think townhouses, and in front of every townhouse is one oak tree, because they have a new variety of oak tree. It's called, I can't remember the name, but something like an urban oak or something, and maybe Carol Ann can remember it. It doesn't have as wide a spread. So, you know, we got to think out of the box here. Maybe there's new varieties of trees that can fit better in some locations. You know, we can try to work to make, you know, look for those things. If Ritz-Carlton can find it, maybe that's something we can use in more applications. So again, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bob Whitmore, Executive Director of City Tree.
Mr. Whitmore, you spoke about trees at the beginning.
Yes, I did.
Mr. Vasky?
I'm speaking, no, but I'm speaking on this.
All right, go ahead.
Yes, yes. So with all due respect, pulling out trees isn't a big problem. It's very illustrative of what's going on. But mitigation is a deception. It's there, it's smoke and mirrors to allow builders to take down healthy trees. And we're putting in saplings where we have healthy trees that are being taken out to put buildings that are way bigger than they should be on plots of land. So mitigation is, in the mitigation fund is a deception to allow us to remove trees. And I am here to save trees, and I want to make a few suggestions on what we need to do. First of all, the DNR is under the Department of Building. Does anybody find that kind of conflict of term, of direction? The idea that, and this is something that Mayor Castor did when she first came in, she moved them out from a freestanding department and put them under the building department, which all that does is it puts them in a position to have to work with builders to make it possible for them to build, as opposed to focusing on a mission, which would be to preserve the natural resources of Tampa Bay. The first thing that we need to do is we need to make the Department of Natural Resources a freestanding department so that the builder's boot isn't on their neck and they have to do what they say or possibly lose their jobs. When they changed that, a lot of good people left. And there's a certain culture of fear over there as to, man, if I push too hard, I'm going to be in a situation where somebody's going to come for my job. We have to let them do their job. And moving them out from underneath the building department is a great way to do it. We talked a lot about fines and penalties and that sort of thing. This needs to be a criminal act. When you take down a protected tree, if you shoot a bald eagle, there's more than a fine to that. This is a criminal act. I'm asking for a Class 2 misdemeanor, which is the same as excessive speeding. All right, so if you come in and you cut down a protected tree, it should be a misdemeanor, and that's going to keep a lot of the tree cutters away, who, by the way, should be licensed. Why aren't these guys licensed? License the tree cutters. You know, as a tree advocate, I come around and I see somebody cutting down a tree, and I have to approach these guys with chainsaws, and I don't know where they came from or what they do. So we have to have licensing for tree cutters. And finally, I'm asking for a moratorium on removal of oak trees. That's my goal, Councilman Miranda. A moratorium on removing healthy oaks.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes, ma'am. Please state your name. You're here to speak on item number 3, correct?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. Please state
Good
your name.
morning. I'm Courtney Honing with the Tampa Garden Club. I'm the civic chair. Thank you for hosting this workshop this morning. We so appreciate it. Just a couple of things and I'll be brief. The first thing I want to tell you is that we are happy to be a partner in all of this. I'm happy to give our information, contact information to Ms. Feely or whoever the designated person is to help with the meetings, and we'd love to be a participant in these meetings to assist in any way that we can. The second thing I wanted to ask you is regarding the Variance Review Board. A lot of these trees are being cut down in the VRB process, and I don't want to be critical of the VRB or their individuals. However, we believe that trees could be saved during that process and eliminate some of these needs for mitigation trees. So as you're considering candidates for the VRB, would you please consider whether or not the individual is an advocate for trees? I think that's important. We could probably prevent a lot of these problems before they ever even come up. The third thing I wanted to mention is I have been hearing some rumblings at the hotline that you can call if you see a tree being cut down and you believe it's not supposed to be. I've heard of them going to voicemail or no one's following up. So if someone with city council could check on that, we would be really grateful and appreciative. And the last thing, I was thinking of an idea back there while you all were discussing this. You know, people have to sign paperwork when they buy a house, and there's a lot of paperwork, I realize that. But maybe the realtor could help with providing that individual with paperwork that they sign, knowing that there's a mitigation tree in that yard, and they are responsible for taking care of that tree and for not taking it out. Just something to consider. So thank you so much for your time this morning, and again, Garden Club is happy to be a partner in this, and we appreciate you hosting the workshop. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Please state your name.
Hello, I'm Paula Meckley. I am the president of the Tampa Garden Club, and we are so excited that this conversation is happening. It really does our heart well that you guys are taking a hard look at all of this. I want to say a few things. 6 months isn't long enough. It falls back onto the neighbor to report that, and that's not a good thing. You're putting a wedge between your neighbor and the person who's taking out a mitigation tree. Trees are infrastructure. I love that. I think that is something we really need to look at, and replacing these big shade trees, and I'm not specifically talking about live oaks, but any big shade tree, there's all kinds of them, with crepe myrtles is not the answer. I personally had an experience recently where a developer was getting ready to do this big project, and they brought plans, and we looked at them, and they said, we're going to put these 10 live oaks in this 10-foot space, 5-10, and I'm like, those would never survive there. They're not going to survive. But the developers can easily put these trees in these very weird locations, and their plans get approved. But yet I'm listening to the city, and they're having a hard time putting trees in because there's all these restrictions about where they can put trees in. But developers can put them anywhere in a 2-foot by 2-foot spot, and they're meeting their obligation. There's something wrong with that we're trying to do more trees. The city here is trying to do it, but the developers are getting that opportunity. I don't get it. And the last thing is, I love the idea of the justice tracks. I mean, we've got these heat tracks. Robles Park, we've been speaking and trying to help and support Robles Park with their green wall. That is super important, and these areas really need the shade from these heat islands and these heat tracks that go up and down. If there's any way the Tampa Garden Club can support that, and we would we would be happy to host some meetings at our club, bringing realtors together, bringing neighborhood associations together, bringing whoever you need, give me a call. I'm happy to try to put something together. We've got a building that we would love to host. So we love the direction this is going. We want to be a partner. We want to help. We want to support this effort. So thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Please state your name.
Good morning, Stephanie Pointer. This is kind of a double-edged sword because as all of you have been to my neighborhood and seen really poorly planted mitigation trees on berms this big with on a block wall that could easily be punctured by those trees. A 12-foot by 12-foot space is not adequate for live oaks, but yet they planted many, many of them in my neighborhood. Then when my neighbors said, oh my gosh, they're starting to encroach on our water line, and it's been 6 or 7 years ago now, the city wanted to fine them for taking out the live oak that was there. The ones that were planted in my yard are not in the original location. They were relocated on my lot because they were poorly placed. Okay, so the problem, you got a really funky situation here, and I'm befuddled that we have builders running out and just willy-nilly placing them wherever they want, even when it's really not a good idea for them to be there because of the sewer lines and whatnot. But, you know, then we're standing here going, well, we need to find the homeowners. But yeah, we have business licenses for consultants. We have business licenses for landscapers. We got a bunch of landscapers here today. I guarantee you they all have business licenses. Handymen have to have business license. I have to have a business license for each one of my rentals. But yet we're up here talking about we don't have any licensing within the city for these tree guys. I'm kind of confused. I want to show you this beautiful tree that I passed on the way here this morning that is now about yay tall and sitting on its side, and the base of it is sitting sideways. Somebody's already filed it. I didn't get a chance to file the complaint. It was cut down without a permit. But I'm not kidding you, the base on it stands this high, sitting on its side. I didn't get a chance to take pictures because I was running behind. But, you know, I think doing the door hanger with the inspection, I think that the city should add affidavits to a sale of a brand new property. You know, I missed, Abby said 500 and something brand new homes in the city. I think you should have to sign an affidavit that says that these trees are new and they're mitigation trees and they will not be removed and destroyed. Like I said, mine are not in the original placement. So, you know, I'm just so confused. I want what's best for our citizens. And, you know, we can push things out, but we also have to take into consideration that the builders are doing us a disservice on a regular basis. And to say that we can't hold the tree guys responsible is ridiculous. Because that was the conversation I had about my neighbor's trees. They called my homeowners, because I was property manager, and said, you have to pay for this. And I said, wait a minute. Why didn't you tell the tree guys? They didn't know. I didn't know back then, but I know now.
Thank you very much. I have 2 registered speakers for this item. I have Lorraine Perino. Ms. Perino, if you're on for item number 3. Please unmute yourself and state your name, Ms. Perino. We can't hear you, ma'am. All right, we'll go to Carol Ann Bennett for item number 3, and we'll go back to Ms. Perino. Carol Ann Bennett, if you're on, please unmute yourself for item number 3.
Hi, my name is Carol Ann Bennett. I'm sorry I'm not there in person. I'm out of state working on my family's tree farm. I want to thank council members Hurtak and Carlson for making the motion. This has been an extremely informative and beneficial workshop, and I'm thrilled with it. And I want to commend all the council members on your comments. It's obvious that you are very knowledgeable and insightful, and it's very encouraging. I'm also extremely happy about the new policy about fining the tree cutters. I think that this is going to have a huge impact on illegal tree removals, and I want to emphasize the illegal part of that. I think that a lot of times these tree cutters can be identified through the homeowners, and if the homeowners refuse, perhaps something can happen in regards to that. But a lot of people will take a picture of a license plate of Billy Joe Bob's rusty pickup truck with his chainsaw on a Sunday, Easter Sunday, cutting down a tree. And the city of Tampa happens to have a police department that knows where Billy Joe Bob lives, and they can nail the violation to him. So I think it's going to actually be a lot easier to do this, and I think it'll have a big impact. I have a question about fines for illegal pruning. I have reported several instances where very large limbs were removed from grand trees without a permit, which is required by our code. And I am unaware of any fines having been levied for that violation, which is irreparable. So I would like to get a little information. I've been unable to get anything about that. I also want to comment on the Natural Resources Department. Mary Danielowitz Bryson, who is in charge of code enforcement for natural resources, does an amazing job. But quite frankly, I believe she's got the work of two people. She has a very hard time keeping up with everything. I have made 30, 40 complaints probably in less than a year. And it's just very hard for her to keep up with this. I think the Natural Resources Department, it seems to me, has been chronically understaffed. I don't know why. I know it seems like they hire people and then the people quit. I know they're always searching for people. I know when Kathy Beck retired, her position was never reposted. I know that there was a consultant from New York who came to Tampa in 2019 and said you should break up the Natural Resources Department and spread them out. And a lot of people have told me that that's a better way to do things. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe going back to a centralized and reposting Kathy Beck's position might be the way to go. I don't know.
Thank you
But I
very
would
much,
also,
ma'am.
I'm going to want to count on number 4.
What did you say about number 4?
I'll be commenting on that.
All right, I'll come back to you for that. Ms. Perino, are you on? I saw that you were muted. If you're unmuted, go ahead for item number 3.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. Please state your name.
Good morning. I'm Lorraine Perino, president of the Tampa Tree Advocacy Group. According to the Tree Canopy and Urban Forest Analysis of 2021, Tampa's tree canopy in 2021 was the lowest percentage in 26 years, since 1995. The loss of tree canopy since 2011 is over 3,300 acres. To put that in perspective, that's an area roughly the size of clear-cutting 4 Davis Islands, 5 downtown areas, 25 Al Lopez parks, 3.7 U.S. campuses, or over 1,325 times the area of Raymond James Stadium, where the Tampa Bay Bucks play football. In South Tampa, there's been a significant decline between 2016 and 2021. The 2021 tree canopy in South Tampa is the lowest in 26 years since 1998. I'm encouraged by some of the solutions that were discussed today. I would like to reinforce finding the tree cutters who prune trees without checking first to see if there's a city permit, or remove trees without seeing if there's a city permit. Broward County licenses their tree cutters, and they make them take a course on how to properly prune trees before they can get their license. They did that because their tree canopy went down to 18%, is what I've read. So Tampa should do the same thing. Follow up on mitigation tree plantings, make sure they're being cared for and not sold. Follow up on the tree giveaways that the city is giving away to make sure that they're cared for from that $1 million grant that the city got from the federal government. Make grand trees removal a misdemeanor. In addition to mitigation and paying a high fine, grand trees are now considered to be rare in the city of Tampa. The prevailing thought when it comes to new construction is that it's easier, and tree removals is that it's easier to get forgiveness than permission. So, you know, increase the fines, make it a misdemeanor. The tree hotline is ineffectual. The T-Tag Facebook page, people have given up on the tree hotline because nothing ever comes of their complaints. So that needs to be looked at and made to work. And in my opinion, it never has worked very well. Planting live oak trees is difficult. They need a lot of space, but as I said last week in my fire station presentation, there are public spaces where grand oaks can be planted. Schools, parks, churches, college campuses, fire stations, and police stations are some places you can look at to plant live oaks because they're so valuable. You can't just say they're too big and we're not going to plant them. They contribute too much to the ecology and the environment to discount them. So, in conclusion, I would just like to say we really appreciate this tree workshop. I want to thank Councilwoman Hurtak for, bringing it into existence. And we at T-Tag would like to see trees always be front and center of everybody's mind and not just discussed at a tree workshop. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. At this time, we're going to go to public comment for item number 4. If you'd like to speak on item number 4, and you go ahead. Yes, sir, please state your name.
Bob Whitmore, Executive Director of City Tree. This has been fun. I don't know if it's worth taking a day off, but I really appreciate the effort. I will be standing here in 5 years talking about 5% depletion of the tree canopy in Tampa. Until there is political will in the mayor's office to make tree preservation a critical matter, we will not save the canopy. Saplings are not saving the canopy. That's not the answer. We have got to figure out a way to, there's no way we can do this in an hour. When somebody pulls down a little house, why can they put up a big house when somebody had a big oak tree there? What about mitigation parks? Somebody buys a lot full of trees and comes and wants to put up condos, which is happening on Coachman and McDill, and wants to put up condos. Well, no, because there are a lot of trees on there, and the city has decided they're going to call that a mitigation park, and we're going to mitigate there because there's no pipes. Let's buy lots where there are big giant oaks in the middle, and we say, well, you know, we got to tear it down because buildings come first. No, mitigate. Plant your little trees around that thing, and maybe if we don't all fry before 40 years when this tree actually becomes able to protect us from global warming, then maybe it's a great idea. The one thing that we need, and everybody is going to moan and hate this idea, is revisit and revise the tree codes in lieu of new scientific facts that talk about global warming for a coastal city that depends on trees to keep us from drowning and frying. In Florida, it's time to get the builders and T-Tag and DNR and you guys and everybody else and do what they did to make that big book of stuff, revise it. Why do we have to tear down a tree because it's 10 feet inside where it's, no, let's keep it up and see what happens because it's important. We will cut it down before we look for a variance change to knock off 10 feet off of the required room needed for a live oak tree. It's insane. It's like let's kill the patient instead of taking out their appendix because it's easy. So yeah, it's been a wonderful, wonderful morning, and I really do appreciate Councilman Hurtak for you doing this, and Councilman Carlson, and all you guys. I really do. I know you've all come around to the need for trees, but I just don't feel the urgency. I just don't. I don't feel the urgency, and it's urgent. Every city in the country knows it's urgent. Every city, and we'll put an hour in it, and I'll be back to save a tree. I'll be back to save a tree.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Councilman Miranda.
I'm just going to make a statement, and I'm not disappointed in what we've done today, but there's a lot more that has to be done to save us from ourselves. You can build something without solar. You can build something with grass. You can do a lot of things that you can change. Trees ain't the only thing you can do to save the world. And we haven't discussed nothing but trees today. And it's true that's the only thing on the agenda. You don't need to have all the grass you need in your front yard or the backyard. You can have rocks. You can color the rocks any color you want. Why do we build houses with eaves so the hurricane can pick up the roof and the walls collapse? That's nice. And I'm not an architect and I'm not an engineer. Why do we build houses where under the 6 inch of concrete is where your plumbing is at? So when you have a leak, you gotta tear the house inside. It makes real good sense to do that. So we need a lot more thinking. So we all gotta work together to solve all the problems. Because if you solve one, you're not solving much. There's so many things you can do. Why do we have electric cars? Why do you have hybrids? Sooner or later, and more likely sooner than later, you're going to have engines that run on water that drive a car, and you're going to have hydrogen driving a car. But that's all I'm going to say, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am? Ma'am? No?
Am I the only one? Okay.
I didn't want to leave you out.
That's okay. No.
Please state your name.
Stephanie Pointer, and Charlie, you know as well as I do how much I hate grass, because it's a waste of money and it's a waste of time. But we all know that I am not a tree hugger here. I got lots of friends here who are tree huggers, and I love them for it. But just in the last hour or so, these are the places where I see that we need trees just in my community. The new ELAP project where they're putting in that 9-acre pond, they're gonna need new trees. Gadsden Park desperately needs trees on their walking trail. Bobby Hicks Park, there's no trees on a huge part of that property. The road to Picnic Island, which floods every time, so that's a great place for trees that drink up 40,000 gallons of water, or 400,000 gallons of water a year could go. The new parking lots at Robinson could use some trees. The Manhattan Trail, the trail that runs along Manhattan, could use some more trees. I mean, that's just what I came up with in 5 minutes. We've got THAN, we've got TTAG, we've got all these neighborhood associations throughout the entire city. I guarantee you that if I can come up with that in 5 minutes, and that's not even on the other side of, that's not all of SOG. Okay? There's plenty of places to plant trees. And there's plenty of ways to work with folks to make sure there's trees. I asked for trees 2 years ago when we did the SOG community. I'm sorry, it was a year ago, over a year ago, because they just had their anniversary. I asked for trees for our mitigation from the city. And I was told, no, I couldn't have the trees. The city would not donate trees to our community center for the buffer between our property and the city's right-of-way. There's a little road there. But yet, I was told, no, you can't have those trees. Now, maybe my community gardens people go and pick them up 1 or 2 at a time. That's their deal. I don't know what they do. But the thing about it is we have to use common sense on where we can replace these trees at. Because when I look at my neighborhood, and we've got 16-year-old trees that haven't been watered since, at least 2010, they're fine. But we've got to figure out something. I mean, I don't understand how staff can come up here and go, we can't plant them all. When, by looking at a GIS map, no, we're never going to figure out where to plant them all. But if we can really, really lean into this with the neighborhoods who know their community better than anybody else. I've never received an email from Mr. Reamer and his department about, hey, where do you think trees could go in our community? Never happened. It could happen today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have some registered speakers. Carol Ann Bennett for item number 4.
Hi, my name is Carol Ann Bennett. I'm very happy about item 4. The benefits of trees are extremely well known, the health benefits, the financial benefits, and it's very important that all of Tampa has a healthy tree canopy. My daughter had to have a tree removed in her yard. She didn't want it removed, but it was diseased. It had to be removed. She knew it would have an impact, but had no idea the impact that ended up happening. Her central heat and air that worked fine for years could no longer keep up. It ran 24/7. She had to buy a portable to supplement it. Her electric bill went through the roof, and she's now going to have to pay for an entire new HVAC just because of the removal of one tree. So it's very important that we keep these trees in these Justice 40 neighborhoods and we plant them. Part of the problem with the trees is the gentrification, which is a problem for every neighborhood in Tampa. The housing study said one of the biggest contributors to the rise in the cost of housing is the rise in the size of the housing, the square footage, everything is bigger. We had all this missing middle that was, I mean, a 1,800 square foot house used to be considered very large. And when you put that house on a lot, you had plenty of room for grand trees. But if you remove that house and you replace it with a 5,000 or 6,000 square foot house that's built all the way to the setbacks, now you no longer have room for these trees. And the cost of housing goes up. People don't even necessarily want places that big, but that's the only thing that's being built. That's something that needs to be looked at. According to the tree study, they identified places where 5.8 million trees can be planted and 263,000 trees on city property. Now, I know all those aren't appropriate for live oaks, but they should be considered. And I want to remind everybody that live oaks need a 20-foot protective radius. The new varieties may need less, but they are, and the tree study tells you, and the foresters will tell you, they are the strongest trees. They're the most resistant to storms. They are very adaptable to spaces. They don't always have to have as a giant place. Yes, you have to have the right tree in the right place, but we need to remember that these are the trees that are doing all the work, even though they're only 3% of the population. And I also want to say our Tremendous program, people want to participate, but the waiting list, I hear people 9 months, 10 months, a year. Why don't we try to make it so that people can get the trees through the Tremendous program? And I, again, Abby Feely has worked with me. We've talked about the inspectors going to these sites and they see the tree barrier, the giant orange barrier is down and trucks run over it. And even though they're for electric,
Thank you
they
very
can
much,
notify.
ma'am. Our last speaker is Lorraine Perino. Ms. Perino, if you're on for item number 4.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. Please state your name.
Lorraine Carino, president of the Tampa Tree Advocacy Group. I really wasn't planning to speak twice. I just wanted to say how much I appreciate this tree workshop and this conversation. I'm heartened by all the solutions that the staff has come up with. I think we should go further. We should license the tree cutters. As I said, Broward County licenses theirs because their tree canopy got so low. And a lot of these tree cutters don't know what they're doing. They prune trees improperly. The tree a couple of years later becomes dangerous or unstable and has to be removed. That happened in my own neighborhood a couple of years ago. The homeowner did not want to remove that tree, but the tree cutters had damaged it, and so this grand oak had to be removed. The tree hotline, something needs to be done about that. I love what Stephanie Pointer said. There's a lot of places that trees can be planted. The city needs to work with FAN, and there's a lot of trees that are going to be planted because of this $1 million that we got from Tampa got from the federal government. So work with the neighborhood groups, work with FAN, plant more trees. We have a brutal summer coming up. I understand it's supposed to be even hotter than it was last year, which last year broke a record. So for the heat index, because we've lost so many trees. So yeah, work with the neighborhood groups and work with TTAG. And thank you very much for all the implementation that's going on. And that's about all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes public comment. Would any council member like to make a motion? Or any motions? Councilmember Carlson, I saw your hand.
No, I was going to go to 6.
Oh, Councilmember Hurtak.
I'm gonna work on some motions. I'm not gonna make any motions right now, but I would like to work with staff on the possibility of licensing tree cutters. I didn't.
It's a state
It's a
thing.
state thing,
Yeah.
but then how can a county do it? They don't. Okay, well then, we can, so if we can't license tree cutters, definitely would love an update on the tree hotline. I think that's something, if folks are really having trouble reaching the tree hotline, that sounds like something that we need to.
I can answer
Okay.
that now if
Okay.
you'd like.
Sure.
Abby Feely and JC's here, Mary Danielowitz Bryson's here also. So I think there's a little bit of, how do I want to say it? I think the expectation is when you call the tree hotline, our team is running out and jumping in front of the tree. I'm going to be honest. And that's not what's happening, and nor should that be the expectation of what is happening. That has never been what has happened. When the tree hotline is called and a property is reported, we then go out there. Unfortunately, the reality of this is it's irreparable damage. I mean, I've had this happen. I'm a citizen in the city. I've had this happen in a property right across the street from my house, where somebody started taking down a tree. We can't then stop that. What happens is that person is then cited, and the citation then has to go through the process. I have looked at other local governments and asked what is their protocol? Do they have a tree hotline? Do they go out there? I mean, clearly we are not going to put a city employee in between a chainsaw and a tree. It does not work that way. So if that is what the expectation is, I want to be on the record that that is not what is going to happen. But when a complaint is called in, we do then go out. We have the construction activity compliance team. We just are hiring another forest examiner under that. We've actually grown natural resources from what used to be one division of 5 to now 9 that is integrated into the different processes. And we believe it's working more effectively because we have one set that are reviewing plans. We have one set that goes out. We have one set that does the inspections. We have one set that does the zonings and variances, where it used to be one team and one person was doing 6 or 8 different things and jumping around all day long to go out and do an inspection, to come back and do a VRB review, to then do something else, to do a plan review. We now have dedicated resources to that on our team. So we are looking at continuing to improve the hotline. I don't know if JC wants to add anything to that now. I did see him come up, but we are dedicated to providing that service in a meaningful way. But I do want to be clear, if you call in, we are not then jumping out there, and unfortunately, probably the damage is done.
J.C. Hutchison, Chief Building Official. Yeah, when we initially put the tree hotline together, we knew we were getting inundated with calls. So the thought was to try to have a separate service to kind of help us with that. We've heard all the complaints. The intent is to move the hotline into our Tampa Connect program. So then therefore it can be tracked the way all of our other complaints are being tracked. You can upload photos, you can do all of that. A part of the Tampa Connect part that makes it a little difficult is when you kind of another state statute is you can't be anonymous. So you have to then also make sure you submit your name and address and things like that. So we're working with TNI. I met with them literally last week. So we're eventually going to sunset the hotline because it's just not working as we thought. And so when it loops back and there's connections and calling this person and then it sends you back in the loop. So we're aware of that, and so the intent is to move it to the Tampa Connect program that the city is already using and integrate the complaints into there. Because then at least it's going to a person here at the city instead of going to an answering service and then relate back to us. We were figuring out that is too much time between when those are happening. When it comes through Tampa Connect, it immediately gets assigned to a person, and then we can go out and do something about it.
I appreciate that you're looking for efficiencies, and so what I might recommend is as you're bringing this up, is to provide some of those expectations, especially if people are going to the website or if they're using the mobile. This is not we won't stop right away, but we will get your information. I mean, just give a little bit of a little background for people to manage some expectations, but because I truly believe if we get, and just work on the communications, because I think if we get a television story, crew story about taking down a tree and they get a $15,000 fine, that's gonna be huge. And that will do a lot of the work for us. So I appreciate that, thank you.
Councilman, you have more?
Yeah, I just had one quick question for Whit or for other, anyone else who's doing just the tree work itself. The one thing we did not discuss today, and I was just thinking, because as I've mentioned before, I'm redoing another part of my yard. I took out grass and I'm putting in another pollinator garden. And one of the main things that my husband and I worked on yesterday was digging a giant hole for the avocado tree that's going in. And we had just planted a mango tree on the other side of our yard. Those will be shade trees, and they're providing, habitats already for birds and butterflies and bees and bats that we have all over our yard. So what are we doing about fruit trees? Not necessarily in the right of ways, although I still think that's perfectly reasonable, but even just part of our tremendous program.
Sure, Whit Raymer, Sustainability and Resilience Officer. This year for the tree giveaway, we introduced fruit trees for the first time. They were very popular. They were huckleberry? Red mulberry. Which I'm sure will work well in people's backyards when those mulberries start dropping on their beautiful driveways and staining them. That might be a different story. I think we're certainly open-minded towards including fruit trees and the diversity of trees that we're planting. Generally speaking, we have found that it's not best practice to plant fruit trees on public rights of way, because the fruits can rot and drop and get smashed, and you get rodents and complaints, and then all of a sudden people are complaining about the fruit tree in front of their house. So, as part of the giveaway, when we're putting on private property, I think that's certainly a great idea. We'll continue to introduce those into the giveaway. And when we launch the new neighborhood-based planting program, which we're tentatively calling Plant Your Heart Out, kind of mimicked off the Paint Your Heart Out, where we'll work with neighborhood associations like Ms. Pointers to survey places in their neighborhood that they've identified to plant trees. The city will purchase those trees. We'll use the green team and the support of the neighborhood to put those trees in. That'll be another opportunity that we can provide fruit trees.
And I appreciate that. And I mean, for people who are worried about fruit trees, as long as you've got some feral cats in your neighborhood, you're pretty good to go. We have a lot of fruit trees in our yard, and the feral cats keep the rats away. They do kill the birds, but they also kill the rats. And the rats.
Whit, do you mind if I give you a call later this afternoon?
I'd love for nothing more, Councilman, please.
Thank you very much. Separate topic, but since you're here. Anybody else? If not, I'll have Councilmember Carlson kick off the last workshop item number 6. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
just because it's lunchtime, and I think we'd like to go out, but as soon as possible. This is an important issue. We've got a lot of people in the audience that would like to talk about it, and we've got expertise, and folks in the community who are here have also spoken to staff. My recommendation is we let public comment go first, and we can control how long we speak, but we don't know how many people are going to speak. So my recommendation is let the public go first, and then we can gauge how much we want to speak afterwards.
Any objection? I think that's a great idea.
I don't have objection, but I just want the community to know why we're doing it, because we don't have do we have a presentation?
Abby Feely. So the motion was not for staff to appear,
Yeah,
but it
yeah.
was brought to my attention that you would like a brief presentation. So we did put one together. I have it in print, just about where we are in terms of regulating turf, what we've done, who we've met with. It's about 6 slides.
All right.
But that is the pleasure of council. If you don't want to hear from staff, that's fine too, but we're prepared if you would like to.
Yeah, I think, and Abby, I just realized you called me and left me a message that there wasn't a presentation. I forgot to call you back, so I apologize. But the folks in the community have been talking to staff about this. I think after the folks in the community speak, then Abby can go through that. I'll leave it up to you all.
I just don't know if they want to
If I may, but I think if she makes a presentation, she's saying. If not, we're going to listen to them again because they don't know what she's going to say.
How
So
about we
my
do the
opinion would be-
presentation, we go to public comment, and then we do our discussion? Okay, all right, kick it off, and then we'll let the people talk.
Oh, I don't think, okay. So, Abby Feely, Deputy Administrator, Development and Growth Management, with me today, J.C. Hutchinson, Chief Building Official. We just wanted to touch briefly on kind of where we've been in the past 2 years on working on the matter of turf. There's been a large increase in the installation of turf, both on private property and in public right-of-way. This has been predominantly on residential, not so much commercial. And issues were arising, such as runoff, ponding, encroaching on trees, like I mentioned, installation in the right-of-way. And I've looked at many best practices, what local governments are doing, how they're handling it, and really our goal is to create a balanced and standardized process to ensure environmental responsibility while minimizing adverse impacts to adjacent properties and to city infrastructure, because what we're seeing is when large swaths of this are being placed in the right-of-way, it's taking a toll on our stormwater system because they're not, it's sheet flowing off, and some of it was not permeable, and really the right-of-way division does not want to manage turf in the right-of-way. So what did we do? We got together, we had some policy discussions internal. We, stormwater, natural resources, mobility, construction services, WITS team, and we looked at permeability, impact on the system, compliance with the landscape code. Right now our landscape code for resi says 25% natural. It does not acknowledge turf as an allowable surface within that. So even though some of our single family houses are putting turf, they still should be providing 25% green. We looked at the placement in the right of way, what we would do if we permitted, what other jurisdictions were doing. I did bring with me, and I have, if anybody's interested, some sheets on who we looked at, what they're doing, how they're doing it, what their requirements are. We worked with Vic, B-Day, Alex Awad to come up with some considerations. Then we had industry discussions, many of them, and I think many of the folks we talked with are here today, which would be great, but we worked to gain an understanding of what new standards were, what the new technologies were, what the materials were, how they were installing it, do they use an underlayment, is it pervious, is it not pervious, what are the site conditions, are they regrading where a site is now having an adverse impact to the neighbor. And what ended up happening out of that is Stormwater hired an engineer to actually go out to a couple locations that already have it in place, look at how they did it, look at what the underlayment was. And it allowed us to develop what we believe is a permeable standard. So if you are doing it in the way that we have, that's considered permeable, and which I know many of you are aware of the 50% rule, right? You can't cover more than 50% of your lot till you're required to retain a certain amount of water on your property. But with this permeable standard that we've been able to work with Alex and his team on in stormwater, they do consider it permeable, so it doesn't count against the 50%. So we've worked out a standard on that. And then we actually did come up with a permit type. So it's a miscellaneous permit, as been discussed today. The landscape companies that are doing this are not licensed by the state. So unlike other permits where you need a GC or a licensed individual to pull that, we are doing this under a miscellaneous permit. It's a fast pass. It has a single inspection, and we worked with the groups to come up with what was the documentation that was able to be provided in a meaningful way so that we could ensure that it is in compliance with what we had. We also have a website that is available for that. Lastly, we came up with some permitting parameters. It's not to be installed in the right-of-way. Areas under 150 square feet are exempt. So if you're doing a 10 by 15 area or less, you don't need to permit it. And then we will not do retroactive enforcement on installations that were done prior to the effective date, which is what we found in most local governments. Unlike St. Pete Beach just passed no turf, and then they went out and had everybody pull up the turf that was put in out there. So different governments are taking different positions on this. Prior to the permitting taking effect on January 1, we did do 2 workshops out at Hannah with industry representatives, and then we have committed that in 6 months we are going to have a follow-up to see how we're doing, what's going on, where are we going from here, is this working? So that is our brief presentation very quickly this morning.
That was very good and brief. Thank you very much. At this time, we won't take any questions or comments from council. We'll go to public comments so we can hear from the public first, and then we'll go into discussion. Yes, sir, please state your name.
Steve Michelini, again, the Builders Association worked with the city staff extensively, and we were involved with all of those tests and studies that resulted in stormwater indicating that it was 100% pervious. The western states, and I've sent you all an email, it is an attachment, so you have everything that I'm going to say to you. But this diagram here gives you an idea of the cost savings. And as I've been told by the industry, that 50% of the water utilization in a single-family home is outside of the home. And so the normal consumption or the savings of water consumption for a single-family house is about 25,000 gallons in a year. And so these western states, and I can name them for you, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, California, Utah, Colorado, and others, I mean, there are more, have started utilizing or allowing more artificial turf to be utilized as a cost savings and a water savings. It also stops the pesticides and fertilizers from going into the stormwater system. This diagram also was sent to you by email as basically the benefits of artificial turf. One of the issues that we still have pending, and Abby mentioned it, was natural resources. And it's not the coverage of the lot so much as it is the separation from trees and things like that. And one of the things that we might ask council to do is to make a motion to examine that issue. It would require a text amendment to change that and to change how artificial turf is treated as a component of a single-family house. I'm not talking about the commercial now. So most of the properties that are used for athletic fields are now converting to artificial turf. Those are large installations. And as you know, it's an all-purpose, all-weather surface that's utilized for those activities. Playgrounds, the city is using rubberized components as well as artificial turf. One of the components that's going in now for one of the schools is an underdrain system with collection tanks. And the tanks are used, the water's being used for irrigation for the plants that need irrigation. So, I mean, I've given you a lot of information. I don't have the 3 minutes to go over all of it, but it was emailed all to you with the backup material, including the scientific information on the study of turf, and that it is safe and it does not create heat spots. It's not contaminating, and it is a safe alternative.
Thank you very much, sir. Next speaker, yes, ma'am, Ms. Stevens. Please state your name.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Yes, sir, please state your name.
Yes, Chris Powell. I'm the owner of Forever Lawn in Tampa Bay. I also own Forever Lawn Jacksonville, and at one time owned Forever Lawn Miami and Forever Lawn Naples. So I've had a 16-year career in synthetic grass in Tampa. We have about 40 employees. We're headquartered right here in downtown Tampa. I think any of you, I appreciate what you guys are doing, honestly. I want to go back to that. I appreciate the effort you make and what you do for our city. I've lived here since 1995, and I've had several businesses in that time. I see myself as an active part of the community and have enjoyed seeing the city of Tampa and Tampa Bay as a whole grow. We've benefited from that. Our company has grown right alongside that. So the people that work in our company are from our school systems, have grown up in the city of Tampa. Our dealership in the Foreverlawn world, there's 92 Foreverlawn dealers around North America. Tampa Bay is the largest of those dealerships. We do a lot. So a couple things I want to emphasize. There's 6 companies here that are all artificial turf companies. I think collectively we have probably 70 plus years in the industry. So there's a lot of resources here in the room that want to be a resource for you guys. I've gotten to know JC and the city staff over the last 18 months. We're really trying to work together to come up with standards that make sense in that. And I think there is a way to do it responsibly. Something I want to dispel a little bit. There's a lot of grand statements made about artificial turf. Many of them are not true. So when you hear that it is impermeable, Steve mentioned the one. We're doing the field out at Manhattan K8. It's the new school that's going in. And literally the turf is over a stone base, and underneath that there's massive rain collection tanks. They're like bus-sized tanks. All of that water goes through the turf, goes through the stone, is captured in the tanks for reuse on the property. So it will be used for all the landscape and everything. So there's, if it weren't permeable, you wouldn't do that. No engineer would sign off on that. Another project we've done, the Children's Cancer Center, we did the playground for them. If there were health concerns, do you really think they wouldn't do their analysis to understand what's in the turf and what the impacts of that are to put it in the Children's Cancer Center? So a couple of the resources I want to throw out to you guys if you haven't heard them. Synthetic Turf Council is the industry association for the synthetic turf industry. It's not just turf companies that's in it. It's architects, there's arborists in it, there are manufacturers, there's community leaders, there's testing agencies. It's a community around the responsible implementation of synthetic grass. They have research that dates 50 years. This is not a new product. So in 50 years, there's a lot that's been accumulated for that.
Thank
so
you
the
very
Synthetic
much.
Turf Council is something I would ask you guys to look to.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes,
Sure.
ma'am. Please state your name.
Hi, Nancy Stevens, Tampa Bay Sierra Club. I sent you earlier a memo from the Agency on
Sir.
Bay.
All right.
I sent you earlier a memo from the Agency on Bay Management that they had contracted to get, that does a survey of the environmental issues with artificial turf and then also a survey of some of the solutions. And I was glad to hear the presentation. It sounds like the city's making progress and making some sensible regulations about using it, which is why I wanted to speak to today. It's sensible regulations. Artificial turf is not a replacement for natural grass. It's a man-made substance. It has, in the memo I showed you, it has issues about it's plastic. It has chemicals. It's not natural. So I would hope that there would never be a consideration of allowing it to substitute for natural grass. I mean, you can put rocks in and paint them green if you want something green, but that's a natural solution. But artificial turf is not. And some of the reasons that I in the memo I sent you. We talked about permeability, and if the city can inspect and guarantee an implementation is permeable, then that can maybe be rectified, but that would have to be very specific, and it would have to last over the years, because you gotta make sure it's gonna last, not get clogged up after a few years. Studies have shown that it absorbs heat, and it's much hotter than regular turf. It negatively impacts the ecological system. You have plastic on rocks that's not natural. In a grass system, you have microorganisms that would break down things like in a dog park. If dogs do their duty on the natural grass and it's not picked up properly, it will get broken down, go through the grass, and the microorganisms will clean it up before it goes into the waterways. We have dog parks in the city of Tampa that are artificial grass. They hose them down. Where do those excretions go? They go directly into the storm system without being broken down by microorganisms. So you're polluting the storms, the waterways by using natural grass. So I'm glad to hear that it won't be used in right-of-ways, because again, same thing, you need natural systems to help filter various natural components, like leaves even, those will also get washed out. And finally, there are harmful chemicals in the artificial turf, not only for when it's installed, but forever. When it gets pulled out, it has to go into a landfill and will be in that landfill forever, bleaching chemicals. Yes, I'm glad to see that regulations are being made, and we'll continue the work, and I'm glad to work with you to provide some more input. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Good morning, or good afternoon.
Good
Please
morning,
state your
Mayor
name.
Apsel. I came a little late, and I did not, sat here all morning and did not find out until not very long ago that item 7 was kicked down the road yet again. So I'm not going to speak on that now. I'm very disappointed to see that that has been once again kicked down the road. The way that elections are run in Tampa leads to the system just does not work. It protects the status quo. You clearly are not interested in changing it. I think you must all be happy with being elected by very teeny % of the actual elected voters in the city of Tampa. It has consequences for who is elected, for who votes, and for the kinds of policies that are passed. So it needs to be changed. There's all kinds of research out there now that showing that it leads to policies that do not address real problems, like the affordable housing crisis. So if someone could reach out to me and let me know why that has been, again, delayed, I would really appreciate it, because it's a problem.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Please state your name. Go ahead. Go ahead. Okay.
Hi, Council. Tommy Cassidy. I'm a City of Tampa resident. I'm also a small business owner. We employ about 14 people here locally. We're an artificial turf installer in the local community. I think where I'm going to go with this is there's a bigger conversation that has to be had. We've sat here and talked about trees all morning. We talk about heat, ambient heat. Artificial turf does not hold ambient heat. So shade coverage comes over, heat's gone. So I want to work with these people. I want to talk to these people and come up with education and talk to everybody about this. One of my biggest concerns as a person living in Tampa is the waterways and the runoff we have. And I wouldn't be in this business if I thought it was hurting, the trees, the environment, and the waterways. Our waterways have major issues. Red tide, runoff, algae bloom, the lakes are affected by it. Our bays are affected by it. It's a big problem. Artificial turf does help with that. We don't have the pesticides. We don't have the fertilizer. We don't have things that are running off into the water. So again, I believe this is going to be a conversation, but there are a lot of technological advances that have came over the years that need to be talked about and need to be brought to the forefront, and that's what we like to do through this process. Also, we're a member of the STC, which my counterpart talked about too, that is a wealth of information to be able to tell, to go to pull things. Not going to waste any more time. It's afternoon now, so I want to get back and hopefully everyone can get to lunch, but thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes, sir. Come on up. Please state your name.
Good afternoon. My name is Ariel Blanco. I'm the owner of Blanco's Turf. We've been installing turf in the Tampa Bay area for about almost 15 years, since 2010. And I just want to give you a quick example of my daughter. She's 6 years old, not the one that I have here, another one. She has eczema, and since she was born, she has been with eczema. So recently, about 6 months ago, we took her to the doctor. She came up with a lot of allergies, and they said all the allergies are, most of them related with real grass, any type of grass. Bahia, soy, and Agustin, they're related to grass. So obviously, about 3 years ago, we bought a new house. We installed, obviously, turf on the backyard, and that has helped a lot with her eczema and allergies and all of that. So that's one point that I wanted to tell you guys. Another thing is that with the trees, I've been installing artificial grass. I've maybe done 3,000 installations all around Florida, not only Tampa Bay, Naples, Orlando, St. Pete, Clearwater, all over. And in all of this installation, nobody has ever called me, and we've done it a lot of different ways, installed different range from the trees, big trees, regulated trees. In all this installation, nobody has ever called us to say the tree looks like it's starting to die or this or that. We have a lot of new technologies like air drains. That is a system that we can put under the turf, and we can show you this later, that keeps the ground cooler by having it right under the turf. It's also extremely permeable. Not only that, we also have T-Cool that helps cooling the turf down. It brings temperature down up to 40 to 50 degrees. We also have Wonderfeel and other products that are for pets, like any antibacterial stuff that goes on the turf. And the last thing that I wanted to touch is that for the people that are worried about like environmental stuff, the artificial turf installations usually last on a house, I would say between 10 and 12 years before this person decides to remove it because they don't like how it looks anymore because it's all potted and it looks weird. But the turf itself, before it starts deteriorating, is about 20 years. So I just wanted to let you guys know about this, and we have more stuff. I will show you later.
Thank you very much, sir. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak? Yes, ma'am.
I gotta say something because.
Wait, please come up to the microphone.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am, please state your
My
name.
name is Allison Date, and I have to say something because I am concerned about how plastic is taking over our world. In my lifetime, it's in everything, it's everywhere, and I don't think we all know the health consequences of that. And but they are finding out that they're not good. And just yesterday, I think it was in the New York Times, there was an article about how EPA is finally, after 10 years, going to make a national regulation that PFAS have to be, some of them, because there's thousands of them, but 4 of them need to be monitored in our water system, which I think the new filtering system in Tampa is supposed to be doing that too. I read that somewhere also. But anyway, there are PFAS in artificial grass, and they break off little bits, and we ingest them into our bodies, and they never go away. And everybody, almost everybody everything on this planet has that in their body now. That did not exist before. So anything we can do to stop that is important. Plastic bottles, plastic drinking bottles, don't use them. Get a water container that is not plastic, because just the action of the water in the plastic rubs off little particles. You can't see them, and you're putting them in your body. That happens on the grass too. Seeing plastic grass at a preschool, to me, is just horrendous. Those little kids are playing on that. It's breaking up, it's disintegrating once you put it in there. And I know some places maybe need them, but I don't know. I would like to say that to be environmentally responsible, it should be limited as much as possible, and for the health and safety of this community. So I had to say that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Yes, sir. Come on up. Please state your name.
Hello, my name is Kramer Spears. I'm one of the owners of Magnolia Turf Company. Just wanted to mention that, as you see, there's a lot of us here within this industry. And what I've heard is a lot of statements, and I think it's just a matter of educating everybody as to what is really in the turf and what is really going on in our industry. There is a big concern about PFAS. The turf that we use, and I'm sure the other gentlemen here use, has testing data to show that there is no forever chemicals in the grass that we use or the turf that we use. And we can provide that to y'all so y'all can review that as well. Also, we want to work with y'all. We want to work with not only y'all, but we're working with the Builders Association as installers. We're trying to come up with a process that works for everybody. Just wanted to mention that as we talked about also it being permeable, that's something that we've already touched on, and there's a standard that's set by the permit process. But that's all I wanted to add for today.
Thank you very much, sir. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak? If not, we'll close out public comment and I'll take it back to Councilmember Carlson.
Yeah, thanks everybody for bringing all your ideas and thoughts. I personally have had some concerns about this. That's why I wanted to make sure we talk about it. A lot of information has been circulated in the last few days. My intention today is not to make a motion to decide to do anything, and I appreciate the presentation that Abby did and going through all the work that the staff has done in the last few months. What I would like to do from this point forward is to continue to listen to the community and talk to staff, and then maybe come back at some point in the future with a motion, or maybe my colleagues would like to do that. But before I close out, Mr. Cassidy, could you come back up one more time? I spent a long time talking to Mr. Cassidy yesterday, and I recommended, first of all, that maybe the industry get together with Sierra Club. I think like on the tree program years ago, the builders got together with the trees. The state undid the hard work they did, but I think that the more everyone talks together, the better information we'll have. But I want to just put you on the spot for a second, Mr. Kazik. It seems like there's also an interim point, kind of along the lines of what the staff's been doing. Yesterday, you talked to me about different qualities of turf, and could you just briefly touch on that? It sounded like there are different levels of quality of materials and different levels of qualities of installers, and so there's a difference in what the base is like and also in the quality of the materials. And so if we were going to try to regulate, if possible, it seems like we could regulate to the higher standard instead of the lower standard. Could you just briefly address that?
Correct. So we've been working alongside the Tampa Bay Builders Association and the city to come up with standards. And you can't do a municipal or a city mandate to do US made or anything like that. That's only comes from a federal mandate. But you can work towards using a higher quality product that is rigorously tested for PFAS, VOCs, the different harmful concern chemicals. A lot of the US manufacturers have rigorous testing for all those types of things to work towards. So I think there's ways that you can work towards having products that have the testing that should be done.
So I think the bottom line is the concerns that especially environmentalists have are true. They're more true with the lower quality based on what you're saying. And then the permeability, you were also saying the lower quality has sometimes zero, the higher one, what's the permeability?
That's more technology advancement, right? So your original artificial turf, it wasn't permeable years and years ago, the 70s when it started to come out. Over time, they did drainage holes. Now, these days, we have backings that are fully pervious. The whole entire thing drains at as quick as the water goes, it goes through.
And could you just briefly tell us about what you put underneath it and how the higher end installers would
so
make
we
the
use
substrate?
in conjunction with the Builders Association and the city, we came up with a standard with engineering testing that if we use a rock base, it's roughly a 3 to 4 inch limestone or granite rock base underneath, that shows the system as being 100% pervious.
And what's the alternative that maybe some other installers might be doing?
You can there's crushed concrete, there's crushed limestone. There are the base panels, which are a good potential alternative that were talked about. Some put it straight on just dirt, which over time won't hold up as well.
And so those aren't permeable, you're saying?
They lock up a little bit more over time, right? They're gonna have more of a fine material in them that will lock up and bind up over time. But if you use a proper rock source, a washed rock, it will stay pervious for the life.
So anyway, I want to continue, maybe you all want to make a motion, but I want to continue to talk to the industry and the environmentalists. I went into the conversation yesterday being 100% opposed to it. It sounds like there's a way that we could draw a circle around the safer versions and the higher quality versions, but maybe block the really dangerous ones. But I want to continue to have conversations. Thank you.
Councilmember Hurtak, then Clendenin, then Miranda.
Thank you. I really appreciate, I don't have any questions,
okay.
no, but I appreciate it. I appreciate this conversation because I tend to agree with you. Plastic in general, it's just a scourge on our earth. So I get it, but it's good to know that there are procedures that are going on to make this more permeable, a little bit safer. My only real question for Ms. Feely is you touched briefly on the amount that still needs to stay permeable. Is it still 25%? Does 25% of the yard still have to be real?
Abby Feely, yes, 25 I mean, that's what the tree and landscape code is for a single-family residence, that 25% needs to be green and have your trees that you're required to do, and then the rest
Can be.
Can be a combination. I mean, it's still, you've got a couple different things going on because you still have the 50%, right? So if you have lot coverage more than 50%, then you owe a half-inch retention for the entire lot, and that is coming in a certain way, either a perk pipe or however they're how you're doing it, but combination of swales. But then, yes, you could have turf in the remainder.
Yes, but so you can have turf in the remainder, but you have to have the 25% of plants and trees and other like
25% green. Yes,
yeah, green. Okay,
yes.
That's
or natural material.
Yeah, thank you. That's a weird way to say. So yes, I appreciate. That's really all I wanted to know. And I just want to commend you for working with the industry. I think that Councilman Carlson's suggestion of kind of bringing in other organizations, Sierra Club and so forth, neighborhoods would also help with getting information out and sharing everything. And so I just thank you for this conversation today.
Councilmember Clendenin and Councilmember Miranda.
Perhaps we get away from saying green and we talk about living organisms. And so I think one of the things we haven't discussed, and I think everything's a balance, because I think there's two parts of this. The alternative of turf is not necessarily without risk and problems. It's problematic on water resources, problematic on chemical resources. It's not natural that we have St. Augustine grass growing everywhere. It's just not a natural landscape. So we have to counterbalance that with the argument of turf versus natural turf versus artificial turf. Both of them have negative consequences. Secondly but the impact it has on critters. So there's also issues with so again, it's a balance. And I think that's one of the discussions that we haven't heard today, why I think it's important to continue this discussion. Because when you talk about organic and live creatures that depend on living parts of the ground, that hasn't been part of that. And of course, obviously, the granite is not something you're going to have. You're not going to encourage organisms to be living in a granite substrate. So again, I think everything in life is a balance. I think trying to find where that balance is what the discussion is here today. What that looks like in residential and commercial. So I think that's what we're searching for, is some semblance of a balance.
Councilmember Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In fact, Abby, I may need your help, because sometime back in prior council, back about 8 or 10 years ago, I forget when it was, we cut down the amount of planted grass because we wanted to save water. Remember that? I think the 70% of your front of your lot line, if you have a 75-foot lot, you can put 70% of grass, or 60, 70%, if I recall that. So then the 25% in my mind is the 25% of the total lot, or 25% of the 70% or 60%, whatever it was. Because there is a difference in mathematically. I'm just thinking out loud and my mind is still moving. My hair's falling off, that's why I can think.
I believe that it is 25% of the total lot. But Mary is here, and I'm going to let her answer, because unfortunately,
find something, because I remember
I'm just
something
not
like
reviewing plans at that level anymore, and I don't want to speak improperly. So let her answer.
I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am, Mary.
Yes, Mary Daniels, Bryson Natural Resources. It is 25% of the lot.
Of the total lot?
Of the total lot.
So then when we're doing these numbers, is it 25% of the total lot or 25% of the 25%?
No, it's 25% of the total lot.
Of the total lot?
Yes.
Okay, that's number one. Number two, Tampa Bay Water produces about 200 million gallons of water a day. City of Tampa about 82 million gallons a day. And both of them are testing for P5 and PFOA on a regular basis. That's number one. And you should be proud that your city of Tampa is one of only 7, I'm going to say that again, only one of 7 water utilities, and over 30,000 in the United States of America, that has a AAA bond rating. So you should be proud of yourself and what you've done. And saying these things, there's certain things that you have to look at, because what goes down somewhere along the line, somebody's gonna be receiving it. And when you look what's happening at if I hear the name Piney Point one more time, every time you turn around, it's fixed, and every time you turn around, it's dumping more of whatever it is into the bay and we have to understand that we cannot continue to do what we're doing to the environment. No matter who you are, where you come from, how much money you have, how much money you don't have, where you live, what kind of car you drive, it's going to be the same for all of us. The fish kills that are happening for a reason, because they're man-made. The environment takes care of itself pretty damn well, and we're here to ruin it pretty damn well. And that's what we've done for many years. Maybe we didn't know it then, but we certainly know it now. And these are the things that you have to look at, in my mind, to make sure that we have a balance of nature, so that nature can be good for us and we can be good for nature. It's like getting married. Evidently, no one ever took the oath of marriage when you come to the environment. But I say this because the more you see, the more you need, and I do it in a humorous way so you understand what I'm trying to say. I try to be humorous, sometimes I'm not, but what I'm saying is that when you look at things, and I've watched all kind of TV shows. I don't watch TV much, but I watch, Script or something's got to do with Channel 3. They had some wonderful things in that WEDU about the environment, not about a week ago. And it's just something that sooner or later, if we don't take care of, there's going to be more people hospitalized. Why is all the cancer stuff coming out now? It's not because they didn't know about cancer. Maybe 80 years ago, they didn't know what it was. 80 years ago, everybody died of two things, natural causes. Well, there's no such thing as dying of natural causes. You die of some disease or some reason. So now the cancer is going up in many areas. What's causing it? I don't know.
Sugar.
But I guarantee it's something to do with the environment. Smoking is allowed, but smoking kills you, and we still allow it. There's different things in life that you have to look at. First of all, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, is this right for me? If it's right for you, I guess it's acceptable. But what I'm getting at is that we have to start regulation, and I'm glad we're in this topic of speaking about it, because it has to somehow, somewhere, come to an understanding of what the future is going to be. And I appreciate the conversation, and right now I don't want to look at any laws. I think we're in the process of understanding where the conversation is coming from, so we can gather all the information so we can make a better decision tomorrow than we can today. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Anybody wish to make a motion? We leave it at that and just keep the discussion going? What are you looking to do? You want a workshop? Do you want a regular meeting?
I think I'd bring it back for another workshop.
How about August 29th?
That is a perfect day.
I'd like to make a motion to bring this discussion back on August 29th.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Clendon and second from Councilmember Miranda, correct?
Yes, but should we put in there some way what we're looking for?
Yeah, more specifics or
More
general
specific
discussion?
of,
or-
No, I think let's talk with staff and we can kind
Okay.
of off grid and talk with them about it and
We have
figure out a direction, unless you have something else you want to add.
No, I think the idea is by the end of the discussion, because we'll have several months to talk to
Right.
folks,
Yeah.
we'll have
Right,
specific
that's my-
recommendations.
Yeah, I don't want to take this down
All right.
a path that maybe we don't know where we're heading,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. That concludes today's workshop agenda. I'm going to go to new business. I have new business.
The Chair Pro Tem recognizes Chairman Maniscalco.
I'd like to make a motion for the City Council to write a letter of support for a grant that the Straz Center is applying for. This grant is to replace the original 36-year-old exterior building illumination and Straz Center logo design.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you very much.
Pro tem, we need to say who's second.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, so was asking.
Oh, who seconded it?
I did and Charlie did.
It makes it if you can have it.
Okay. Ms. Henderson, pretty in pink.
Oh, we're still in a meeting.
We're still In a meeting.
Thanks for coming. All right. Councilmember Miranda, do you have any new business?
None, sir.
Councilmember Vieira.
Yeah, I want to move, next week, I was having an update on the West Tampa Little League Monument, and a continuance has been requested to July 18th.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Vieira, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
They're going to get estimates on the restoration and what that'll cost. I also wanted, I don't know, is it I'm hearing things about the Sulphur Springs pool being, not being able to be used, repairs, et cetera. I wanted to have an update on the Sulphur Springs pool and where it is. I had May 2nd, but you know what? That's actually going to be too early.
I'll second that. I heard that it had closed. I haven't been up
Yeah,
there.
that's
to
what
see
I
it.
heard, so I was looking at May 2nd. It's probably,
The agenda's already made for May 2nd.
yeah. How about May 16th?
We have over
Yeah.
12 items on that agenda.
May
June 6th
Yeah, let's
is
do
still
June
very
6th.
full.
Yeah, I mean, I want to get this soon just because of summertime, and I'm sure that the staff will be working on this issue between now and then, but let's do June 6th.
We have a motion from Councilman Vieira, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Anything else, sir?
Yes, sir. I also wish to have an update on it's a long story. There were some positions that have been apparently, from what I hear, unfilled in Parks and Recreation that are creating some delays in the new Tampa Rec Center, and I'd like to have an update on that. We're going to have a community meeting on that in May, but an update and just a written report as finalists otherwise noted on June 20th.
We have a motion from Councilman Vieira. Do we have a second? Second from Councilmember Clendenin. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Anything else?
And then lastly, a commendation for St. James United Methodist Church for their red carpet event. They're having a prom on Saturday evening for people with disabilities.
All right. Councilmember Vieira with the motion, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
That's it, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I would like to ask staff to give us the status, or to provide us with a report, it can be a memo, of course, on the past Yellow Jackets field, the baseball team, the Yellow Jackets, and the possibility of returning the Yellow Jackets to their field if it's not being planned for anything else. It's sitting there empty, and it has been since they were required to move.
We have
Thank
a
you.
motion from Councilmember Henderson, second from Councilman Vieira. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Yes, ma'am? Councilman Vieira was the second. All right. Anything else?
No, sir, thank you.
Councilmember Clendenin, I have one more.
The Chair Pro Tem recognizes Chairman Maniscalco.
I'd like to make a motion to present a commendation to the Tampa Asian American Pacific Islander Advisory Council recognizing AAPI Heritage Month in the month of May. I will present this commendation off-site at the 2024 Tampa Asian Pacific Islander Cultural Festival taking place at Curtis Dixon Waterfront Park on May 11th.
We have a motion from Chairman Maniscalco, second from Councilman Vieira. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Yes, I do. I would like, after speaking with our council, Marty Shelby, and representatives from the city clerk's office, I'd like to revisit one of the rules we talked about, and that is speaker sign-in cards. I propose doing a 90-day test period of doing it to see how it works, to be able to, one, because the city clerk has issues with, capturing names and doing what they need to do, and maybe, and just see how it works as far as order. It wouldn't restrict, only for open public comment, not for the individual issues, just the beginning of the council meetings, open public comment, and do a 90-day test period to see how it works.
Second. We have a motion from Councilmember Clendenin, second Councilmember Vieira. Any discussion? Councilmember Hurtak?
We already agreed that we would have a member of the clerk staff be out there to help people write their names. I think we want to try that first. If that doesn't work, I'd be willing to open it up to trying something different. But I would not support this.
But again, 90-day test period.
Yep. Have a 90-day test period for what we already agreed on.
I agree with Councilmember Hurtak. Can we get a roll call vote?
Hurtak?
No.
Clendenin?
Yes.
Henderson?
No.
Sorry, Viera?
yes.
Miranda?
No.
Carlson?
If you bring it back in like 60 days or something, I might say yes, but right now, no, be for the same reason.
Maniscalco?
No.
Motion failed with Hurtak, Henderson, Miranda, Carlson and Maniscalco voting no.
Anything else? Councilmember Hurtak.
Thank you. I would like to make a motion to have Chairman Maniscalco send a letter on behalf of City Council supporting Walk Bike Tampa's Accelerated Mobility Playbook Grant. The grant is offered by City Threat, a national nonprofit organization that supports the development of safe multimodal networks in local communities.
I'll support that. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
She said right from
I'll write it.
We have a whole.
I have an English
Yep.
degree and I might as well put it to good use.
Okay.
Anything else, ma'am?
No.
Yeah, that's what they said. Get that and go to law school. Councilmember Carlson.
I don't have anything, but just a comment on the public comment. I do think that we ought to ask people to stand up. Not everybody can stand up, but what's happening is people are jockeying for position. They're sitting down. It's hard for us to estimate how long it's going to be. And I think we need to cut it off earlier and say, okay, this is the last one, and then not let anybody else in. We want to let everybody have a chance to speak, but as we warned it several times, if people don't get in line or indicate they're going to be in line, then we just need to cut off because it just seems to go on and on and on.
You know, also there's security issues of everybody lining up against and milling about. There's people are. I mean, it's a little. It's chaotic and it creates an issue in a public meeting.
All right, and a big special thank you to Mr. Justin Vasky for filling in today. We appreciate you. Can I get a motion to receive and file?
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Henderson. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.